Welcome to Paycheck for Life, Acera's new and mid-career employee webinar. In this webinar, we're assuming that you're a new employee, or you're somewhere in the middle of your career, which is why we called it the new and mid-career employee webinar. The theme there is that you are not yet near retirement. So you're not like pre-retirement. You're not within a few years of retirement, probably. And that's a good thing in the context of this presentation because it means that you still have plenty of time to plan for that retirement in the future. So in this seminar, we're going to go through all the things that you might want to know about doing that planning. And since you're curious about retirement planning enough to watch this webinar, you probably have some questions already. Questions like, what do I need to know about my pension? What do I need to do? Do I need to do anything? And if I need to do something, what is that? So I have arranged the answers to the questions I think you're going to ask into the form of this checklist because I've been doing this for 17 years. So I think I know about 95% of what you're going to ask. And so here's what we're going to cover during the presentation. I will help you understand a little bit about some retirement basics. We'll talk a little bit about pension math. And as part of that, I'll tell you about our Acera retirement formula that we use to calculate your pension when you retire. And we'll talk about purchasing service credit. Now, we're not going to take there's not going to be a ton of math. I'm not going to ask you to do any math. I'm just going to walk you through a simple formula, and it'll be super easy. So don't panic about that. I will help you get a precision pension estimate for the future pension that you can expect to collect from Acera when you retire. I will help you understand retirement eligibility. So what that means is that at some point in the future, you become eligible. You have to meet a few criteria, and I'll show you what that criteria is. And I will also help you understand some additional benefits that we offer, like healthcare benefits, death benefits. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And I will help you designate your beneficiary or beneficiaries for those death benefits. So that's very important. And then the last two big pieces of this, the culminating items in this checklist are, first off, understanding career planning options. And what I mean by that is that at some point in the future, you are going to stop working for your employer that you're currently working for that gives you membership in Acera. So then what are your options regarding when you leave employment? So I'll walk you through all of those options. And then I will also help you make a retirement planning picture. And what I mean by that is that we take a little peek into the future and we look at your possible income in retirement far in the future. And then we rewind back to the present to talk about some moves that you might want to make now that will help you achieve the retirement planning picture that you are envisioning. And as part of that discussion, we'll talk about starting a 457B account to save a little extra money toward retirement. Okay, let's jump right in. First off, let me help you understand a few retirement basics. Let me start with this question. Who is Acera? In one sense, Acera is this acronym that stands for the Alameda County Employees Retirement Association. But there's about 90 plus of us that work at Acera. So I have about 90 colleagues. And our entire job is to provide retirement, disability, and death benefits to you. So there's those of us that work here, we're county employees like many of you, and then there's you who we are working to provide retirement, disability, and death benefits for. So you are members of Acera. So you are also part of the who that is Acera, even though you don't work for us. Okay. And you are a member of Acera because of the position that you work in and who you work for. So at some point, you worked or you work currently full time in this retirement eligible position. So to establish that retirement eligible position, it has to at least start out full time. And then you can go down to part time later if you want and you maintain your Acera membership. It's just that when you start in that retirement eligible position, you work full time for one of the six public agencies in Alameda County that use Acera to provide retirement benefits to their employees. So if you work for one of these six agencies in that retirement eligible position, you are automatically an Acera member. So your membership is automatic and it's mandatory, so you have no choice. As an Acera member, you pay into Acera with every paycheck. So that is called your employee contribution, and that goes into Acera's fund. And if you look at your pay stub and you look in the before tax deductions column, you'll see a line that says something like retirement, or it may say something a little bit different. But that line is money that is coming out of your paycheck on a pre-tax basis, so before anything, any other deductions. And that money goes into a Sarah's fund with every paycheck you receive. Additionally, your employer is making a contribution on your behalf every time you make your contribution. And usually they are putting in more money than you are for various reasons. So we have the employee contribution, the employer contribution. And so, what we're going to do with those contributions that we're collecting is that we do not want them to sit around and collect dust. We invest them in a diverse array of investments all over the world with the goal of earning interest, so earning more money on the money that we're investing. And we do, over long periods of time, tend to earn a significant amount of interest. So, it's these three sources of income that give us this big pot of money that Acera administers called Acera's fund. So why are we collecting all this money and why are we investing it? What's our goal? What are we going to do with this money? Well, you, as a member of Acera working for one of those six participating employers, as you work throughout your entire career, throughout your entire membership with Acera, you are earning credit toward retirement. So you're earning more and more and more credit the longer that you work. And you earn credit in three categories, which I'll talk about when I talk about our retirement formula. So the longer you work, the more credit you earn toward retirement, with the goal of in the future, at some point, you are going to stop earning credit toward retirement, and then you're going to start collecting upon your retirement the retirement that we owe you in the form of a monthly retirement allowance. And you're going to receive that monthly retirement allowance for the rest of your life. You cannot outlive your retirement allowance. It happens each and every month for the rest of your life. So, this is kind of special. This is a kind of amazing thing that you get to participate in, a defined benefit pension plan. Because what it means is that word defined benefit pension plan means that your retirement, your monthly payment from Acera is defined by this formula, which I'll show you, which means that you can both predict it in the future very precisely so that you can plan very precisely for your post-retirement income, and you can count on it. It's guaranteed income for the rest of your life, so you can plan on it. It's guaranteed. Private employers don't do this much anymore. And just one other thing that I like to point out is that in most cases, when you retire from Acera, we will give you back all the employee contributions you made over your entire career, plus all the interest that we have posted to your account over the years. We're going to give it all back to you within your first 3 to 5 years of retirement, which is kind of amazing because the vast majority of people, and the hope is that you're retired way more than the first 3 to 5 years, that you live a long and have a long and fruitful retirement. So maybe you live 20, 25 years, 20, 30, 35 years, 40 years past your retirement. You're just going to receive that check for the rest of your life, even though we already gave you back all your contributions within the first 3 to 5 years. And that is because of the employer contribution, but mostly the investment earnings that pays for about 3/4 of your lifetime pension. Okay, one more thing that I want to point out here, just to go back one slide about this term retirement allowance, is that I might throw out a bunch of different synonymous terms throughout the presentation. You've probably already heard me say some of them. So I might say retirement allowance, I might say pension, I might say retirement benefit, I might say monthly pension, pension allowance, all of these mix and match terms. It's all on this same concept that you're receiving a monthly payment for the rest of your life that's guaranteed. And then somebody's asking about medical benefits. We will definitely talk about that a little bit later in the presentation. Okay, so now that we've kind of established the basic function of Acera, which is to pay you that lifetime pension that you've earned when you retire, let me show you this milestone chart. And this, you'll see these milestones throughout your membership with Acera, and this will illuminate some of the other topics that we're going to talk about when I describe the benefits of Acera and being an Acera member. Okay, so first off, you have your date of hire. This is your first day of work in that full-time retirement eligible position. And like I said, you can go down to part-time later, totally fine. Maintain your Acera membership, keep earning credit toward retirement, totally fine. But you at least have to start out full-time. So this is your date of hire into that full-time retirement eligible position. And then what happens is, for four of our employers, everyone except for Livermore Area Recreation and Park District and the Housing Authority, there's a 2 week lag, and the first day of your second pay period is your date of entry into Acera. So this is your first day of Acera membership, and this is the day that you start earning credit toward retirement. Now, for LARPD and the Housing Authority, there's no 2 week lag. Your date of hire into that retirement eligible position is your first day of Acera membership. Okay, so then what happens? Well, I told you that you earn credit toward retirement in three categories. One of the categories is basically time worked. So that's known as service credit. So if you earn 5 years of service credit, basically you work full time or the equivalent of full time for 5 years, you earn 5 years of service credit with the Acera, you are considered vested in the retirement system. Vesting is kind of a loose concept. It kind of means guaranteed. So vested benefits are basically guaranteed benefits. But what happens at 5 years is you start being able to unlock the ability to collect some of those guaranteed benefits. So that'll make more sense a little bit later when we talk about retirement eligibility. So speaking of retirement eligibility, what happens after you're vested in the retirement system is that at some point in the future, through some combination of your years of service credit and your age, you become eligible to retire. This is the first day that you could physically retire from Acera if you want to, because that's the first day that you're eligible to. There's a few different combinations that will get you there. I'll show you what those are in the second half of the presentation. But this is the day that you could retire. But many people, I would say probably, more than 90% of people, 95% of people keep working past your first day of retirement eligibility because you'll find out that it's actually at a pretty young age. And the reason that they do that is because they want to earn more and more credit toward retirement because the more credit you earn, the higher that monthly retirement allowance is going to be when you finally retire. And so they're trying to increase their pension payment basically when they retire. Okay, and that's why I've left a big gap here between retirement eligibility and the next milestone, which is your last day on payroll for your employer. This is also known as your termination date. It's the date that you leave employment with your employer, and this is the day that you stop earning credit toward retirement. Many people will go straight from active work into retirement, which is why I've kind of overlapped these two. And what that would mean is that the day after your last day of work is your first day of retirement. Okay, now that's not the case with everyone. Many people will not plan on that and will not do that. You'll stop work and you will defer your retirement to a later date. And that means that you go from active membership, being an active member, to what we call being a deferred member, which is that you are still a member of Acera. Your membership is just on hold. You're not earning more credit toward retirement. You're not earning, and you're not paying into the system anymore. And you can retire later out of deferred retirement. I will talk about that at the end of the second half when I talk about career planning options. So I will go into detail about that. But in that case, you would have a gap between the date that you leave and your first day of retirement. Okay, now, the next pension milestone is your retirement date. This is going to be a date that you choose after retirement eligibility. And this is the day that you start collecting that lifetime retirement allowance that you have earned while you are working through in your career with your membership with Acera. And you will collect, as I said before, that monthly retirement allowance every month for the rest of your life. You cannot outlive your retirement allowance. It's going to happen each and every month until your death. And that's when your retirement payments would stop. Now, you'll note that there's one more milestone on the chart, and that is because at the time of retirement, you have the ability to name what's called a continuance beneficiary. So it's somebody who gets your death benefits, and you can name them for what's called a continuance, which is a continuing payment after your death. And in most cases, it's going to be a lifetime continuance for the rest of your beneficiary's life. So upon your beneficiary's death, that's when the benefit payments would stop to your beneficiary, and that would conclude Sarah paying out all of the benefits that we owe to you and your beneficiaries. Okay, just another couple of quick words about vesting. Like I said, it happens with 5 years of service credit that you earn. Not only with the Sarah, but if you have reciprocity with another California pension system because you earned credit in another California public pension system because you worked for another agency in California and you've linked them together to establish reciprocity, the vesting requirement, the 5 years, is the 5 years combined among all of the linked together systems. I will talk about reciprocity in detail when I talk about career planning options, but I just wanted to mention that in terms of the vesting subject. And then where does the guarantee come from? The I said vesting kind of means guaranteed. Vested kind of means guaranteed. Guarantee comes from state law. State law tells us how to do everything. It governs everything we do, and the guarantee comes from state law. And the guaranteed benefits, the vested benefits, are that monthly retirement benefit, monthly retirement allowance that you'll receive every month for the rest of your life. Also, an annual cost of living adjustment in retirement, which is a percentage increase each year to that retirement benefit, and a $1,000 lump sum death benefit. Now, there are other death benefits that you can name for your beneficiaries. Excuse me. Um, in addition to that, but I just like to point out that this $1,000 lump sum death benefit is also a vested benefit. Okay, somebody's asking about the salary calculation part of the retirement formula. I will definitely cover that. So we'll get there, definitely. Okay, thanks for asking about that. Okay, let me tell you about your tier. You are all in one of these tiers, and it's based on your date of entry into a SARA, your first day of a SARA membership. Okay, so the way that this works, first off, let me tell you what timeline to look at. If you're a safety member, you're going to look at this bottom timeline. Safety members are sheriff's deputies and probation officers. There could be some other sworn officers in there. Usually, if you're a safety member, you know it, so you're looking at the bottom timeline. Everyone who's not a safety member is known as a general member. So you're looking at the top timeline, unless you're a general member who works for the housing authority or a general member who works for Livermore Area Recreation and Park District, and then you look at the timeline for your employer. Okay. So the way this works is that if you entered a SARA before the cutoff date for that tier, that would have put you into the earlier tier. So if you had entered a SARA before July 1st, 1983, that would have put you in tier one as a general member. Tier one was a long time ago. Most of those people have retired. There's probably no one on this, watching this that is in tier one because this is a new employee and mid-career webinar. If you are in tier one and watching this, I also recommend watching our pre-retirement webinar because you're probably going to be planning your retirement pretty soon. Okay, so if you entered a SARA July 1st, 1983, all the way up to December 31st, 2012, that would put you in tier two. And if you entered a SARA January 1st, 2013 and beyond, that would put you in tier four. So all new members go into tier four in every case. Okay. Housing authority, you'll note for housing authority people, there's a different tier one cutoff. LARPD, there's no tier two, there's a tier three, and there's a different tier one cutoff. And for the safety members, there's three different tier twos. And if you entered safety membership between October 17th, 2010 and December 31st, 2012, you had the choice of tier 2C or tier 2D, and you had 45 days within that first safety membership to make that choice. And if you didn't make it, you were defaulted into one of the tiers. Now, that's how the tiers work. Which tier are you in? Do you remember your date of entry? Do you know what tier you're in? Okay, so if you don't remember your date of entry, or if you don't know what tier you're in, there's a pretty easy way to find out. All you need to do is log into your account on our website. So we have this member portal called Member Direct that you can log in and look at your personal retirement account with us, Sarah. You can do a lot of stuff in there. You can see all of your pension data. You can see what your tier is, what your date of entry is, how much you've paid into the system already, how much interest we've posted to your account, how much service credit you've earned. You can even run precision pension estimates. I'll show you that a little bit later. Um, but yeah, when you log into your account on our website, that's how you figure out your tier and your date of entry. Now, let me just show you, if you've never logged in, how to do that. Okay, here's our website, acera.org. Okay. Now, I just want to take a moment, just as an aside, to say if you are a new employee and you have started your job and your membership with Acera within the last 7 weeks, you're not going to be able to do this yet. So, what you need to do is wait for us to mail you a welcome letter. You're going to get that in the mail. And then, when you receive the welcome letter, there will be instructions on how to go through this process to set up your member direct account. And so you gotta wait until then, and it's because there's a lag time. Your employer has to transmit data to our database, and so it takes a little bit, takes a while to do that. Now, if you've already been working here for 7 weeks, you can go ahead and do this. If you've never logged in, you navigate to acera.org. On every page, you click the login sign up button. It's there, and that takes you to our member portal, Member Direct. And if you've already logged in before, you just put in your username and password, click login. If you've never done this before, or if you have not logged in since about October of 2024, when we relaunched this member portal, you're going to need to make a new login, okay? Because we upgraded our pension software back then. It was a long 5 year project, and so we upgraded it, and it came with this new portal. And we got rid of all the old logins so that you have to create a new login, and that was for security purposes. So all you need to do is click this enroll link here, click enroll, and you're going to need an enrollment pin before you can enroll. So the way to get that is request an enrollment pin by clicking that link. You put in your info and hit request pin. And what that does is it generates a letter in our office on our side. My colleagues will get that to you in the mail within a few days. So they'll put it in the mail today if you were to do it today, and you'll get your pin within a few days, and then you can get into Member Direct. And then it'll give you instructions on how to get back to this page. You put in your pin, your info, choose your username and password, security questions, click enroll. If you have any trouble, try with either this screen, the enrollment screen, or the request a PIN screen. Try a previous zip code because you may not have changed your address with us, and we may still have a previous zip code in the system for you. So if you can't make it happen, try a previous zip code, and that usually works 90% of the time. If you have any other problems, go ahead and give us a call. We have a call center, and in fact, if you have any questions throughout your entire membership with Acera, my colleagues in the call center, their entire job is to answer your questions about your retirement. Our phone number is on our website, but just to give it to you right now, it's 510-628-3000. And so, we're always available to answer your questions about your retirement planning. Okay, so moving back to the presentation, that's how you verify which tier you're in. Okay, so moving on to the next subsection here. This is kind of the crux of this entire presentation, this slide here. So we're not going to take a deep dive into this right now. I just wanted to show this to you to give you some context for this entire discussion. Okay, and then we'll return to this at the end of the presentation. So because you're a new employee or you're in your mid-career, what we want to do is we want to take a little peek into the future and look at a picture of when you retire in the future. So you just kind of look into the future and think about your future retirement. And what that means is that you're going to stop working at your job and you're going to need income to pay for your life in retirement because your employer is no longer going to be paying you because you don't work there anymore. Where is that income going to come from? Well, it could come from basically three broad categories of sources. We have your Acera pension. So, like I said, you're going to get that retirement allowance. What we can refer to and kind of mentally conceptualize as a paycheck for life, because you get your employer paycheck, you earn credit with Acera, and then when you retire, Acera takes over giving you your paycheck, and you're going to get it for the rest of your life. Okay, so that's what we kind of mean by paycheck for life. You can kind of mentally lump any other pensions that you may be eligible for into this category. The second category is Social Security. So you're paying into the Social Security system. Unless you're a safety member, you're probably not paying into the Social Security system. But if you are paying into the Social Security system as a general member, you got to pay in for at least 10 years or the equivalent of 10 years. And then you can expect to collect a payment from Social Security. And people like to talk about like doom and gloom on Social Security. Congress always fixes it. So it's, my prediction is it's going to be fine. So you can use Social Security for the purposes of planning your retirement because projections because you can expect to collect that in the future. And then anything beyond your Acera pension and Social Security is going to be your personal savings and investments. So that's kind of the third broad category. And what financial planners will tell you is that in order to maintain your standard of living in once you retire, the combination of the different places that you're going to be receiving income in retirement should add up to at least 80% of what your working salary was. So you're going to need to replace at least 80% of your working salary with that retirement income. Now, if you're new or even if you're in your mid-career, that might sound like a tall order. Like, how the heck am I going to do that? What I'm going to do at the end of the presentation, when we talk about making a retirement planning picture, is I'm going to walk you through step by step how to get projections for the pensions, Social Security, and then I'm going to talk about how to figure out if you are pointed in the trajectory of 80% income replacement. And it's actually, I think you'll find that it's going to be very easy. We're going to use online calculators. You don't have to do any math. It's all using technology, and it's actually pretty simple. So don't stress out if this kind of thing stresses you out. Um, so the reason I'm showing you this slide now is to tell you that I'm going to talk a lot about your Acera pension, and I'm going to talk about ways that there's a few ways that you can kind of dial in that Acera pension to make sure it's the maximum that you have earned. You're going to collect the maximum that you've earned. And I just want to help you understand how you're earning your Acera pension and how to get projections on that. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll move back into this slide and we'll talk about how to finish out this equation and make sure you're in the trajectory of 80% income replacement. Okay, real quick, somebody asked, how is your PIN sent to you from Member Direct? It's sent to you by US mail. So you can expect to receive it in US mail, and that's just for security purposes. Okay, so next section. Let me help you understand a little bit about pension math. Okay, so here's an equation. Here is our retirement formula that we are going to calculate for you when you go to retire. You may be thinking, why is he showing me this right now? Why do I need to know this right now? My retirement is a long time away. I don't need to know this right now. The reason I'm showing this to you is because these are the three categories in which you are earning more and more credit toward your retirement throughout your entire career. You're already earning credit toward retirement in these three categories, okay, as an Acera member. So what I like to do is show you how each one of these works, how you dial in each one of these three numbers, and that helps you with making sure that your monthly retirement allowance is the maximum. And it also helps you understand the pension projection, the retirement allowance projection that you can estimate in your member direct account. It'll show you the different factors that it's using to calculate your monthly retirement allowance, and if you understand this, and it'll take me 2 minutes to explain this to you. If you understand this, it will illuminate that pension benefit estimate way easier. Like you'll understand it way easier. Okay, so here's how this works. When you go to retire, Acera is going to calculate this formula, and that's going to determine your monthly retirement allowance that you're going to receive each and every month for the rest of your life. In retirement, you are going to get a percentage of your highest salary for each and every year of service that you earn with Acera, each and every year of service credit. Basically, each and every year you work with your Acera participating employer. Okay. So this sentence is saying in English what this multiplication is doing. Let me plug in some numbers here for you, and I think it will help make this way easier, okay? Let's say, for example, that the percentage of your highest salary that you're going to get for each year of service is 2%. That means that you're going to get 2% of your highest salary for each year of service. And let's also say that when you retire, when you go to retire, you have worked for exactly 20 years. Service credit is measured in years, okay? So what that means is you're going to get 2% of your highest salary for each individual one of those 20 years that you've worked. Essentially, we're taking 2% and we're adding it up 20 times. 2% plus 2% plus 2% of your salary 20 times equals 40%. We're basically multiplying 2% times 20, which gives us 40%. So now we know that your monthly retirement allowance is going to be 40% of your highest average monthly salary in this example. To finish out the example, let me just plug in a salary. Let's say that your highest average monthly salary when you retire was $5,000. Well, now we know your monthly retirement allowance is going to be 40% of $5,000, which in this example is $2,000. So we've just to finish out the multiplication, we multiply 40% times 5,000 to give us $2,000. Okay. So it's pretty simple. That's how that works. The bottom line there is that the higher any of these three factors are, because it's a multiplication, the higher the age factor percentage, the higher the years of service because you work longer, and the age factor percentage gets higher by aging, just by getting older and older, or the higher the salary that you work, and this will get higher by cost of living adjustments, raises that you might get, or maybe you switch jobs to a higher position, or maybe you get a promotion. Um, the higher any of these three factors are, the higher that monthly retirement allowance is going to be when you go to retire. So the way that you dial in your monthly retirement allowance is by dialing in each of these three numbers: the age factor percentage, service credit, and highest average monthly salary. So let me give you a few more details on how that works, how we calculate each one of these, and that will help you figure out how to get the highest number for each category. Let me talk about the age factor percentage first, okay? So, what percentage of your highest salary will you get for each year of service? Because it's not going to necessarily be 2%. What it's going to be based on is your age at retirement and your tier. Your tier comes with a set of age factor percentages written into the state law that tells us which age factor to use in the calculation for you. So what you're seeing here is a sample of some of those percentages based on different ages. So what you're going to look at is just your tier. You only look, if you're a general tier 4 member, you just look at your column for general tier 4. Forget about all the other numbers, they don't apply to you. Also, these percentages never change. These are written into the state law. Okay. So the way this works is based on your age at retirement is we will pull out one of these percentages from the chart, put it in the formula. So let's say you're a general tier 4 member, you retire at age 60. Well, you can see that at age 60, general tier 4 would receive 1.80%. So 1.80%, if you retired at age 60 as a general tier 4 member, is what we would plug into the age factor percentage for you. So you would get 1.80% of your highest average monthly salary for each one of the years of service credit that you work. Okay. And you'll note the numbers get bigger the older you are. So the way that you earn credit toward retirement in this category is simply by aging. So this one's easy. You just get older. You just retire at an older age. And this kind of goes hand in hand with the service credit, because the longer you work, the more service credit you earn toward retirement, also the older you get. And so these kind of go up, together, the age factor percentage and the service credit. One more thing I'd like to point out here is that these are not all of the percent increases. They actually increase with every quarter year that you age. And so if you look at the full age factor percentage chart on our website at assert.org/age, it will actually have incremental increases for every quarter year. It'll say like 52, 52 and a quarter, 52 and a half, 52 and three quarters, 53, and so on and so forth. And there will actually be a slightly higher percentage for every quarter year that you age. And so you can learn more about that at acera.org/age. I guess the last thing I want to say about that is that there is a maximum age factor percentage you can get for each one of the tiers, and that's denoted by the blue box. So if you were to retire as a general tier 4 member at age 67, you would get 2.50%, excuse me, in the formula for you. But if you also retired at age 68 or 69 or 79, you would still get the 2.50%. So at a certain point in each one of the tiers, the age factor percentage stops increasing. Okay. That was a lot of info to throw at you for something that is, going to come much later in your career that we're going to actually do that calculation. If you want to forget all that and only remember one thing, the bottom line with the age factor percentage is that an older retirement age equals a higher age factor percentage up to the maximum for your tier. Okay. And I do see another question about salary. I will get to salary in just a minute after I talk about service credit. Okay, so we talked about the age factor percentage. Let's talk about how we calculate the service credit and how we tabulate that. Okay, so back to the pension milestone chart. You start earning service credit toward retirement with Acera on your date of entry, your first day of membership with Acera. And you're going to earn service credit. Service credit is basically years worked, it's measured in years. You're going to earn service credit throughout your entire career, all the way up until your last day of work with your employer, your termination date with your employer. And we not only measure the full years, we measure partial years too. And in fact, we measure your service credit down to the fraction of a day. Every 15 minutes you work, you earn 15 minutes of service credit. So if you do log into your Member Direct account, you'll see that your service credit tabulation will say something like, if you've been here 4+ years, it'll say something like 4.789263. And those decimal places are us calculating your service credit down to the fraction of a day. And we do include all those decimal places in the formula for you. So you earn service credit right down to the last 15 minutes on your last day working for your employer. Okay. Now you earn service credit during your regular work hours. This is going to make up the bulk of your service credit, your regular work hours. You also earn service credit during your earned leave times. So when you mark these earned leave times on your timesheet and you go out on those earned leave times, you are earning service credit during that time. And that includes your earned vacation leave, your earned sick leave, management leave if you get that, comp time if you earn any of that, regular holidays, and floating holidays. You earn service credit during those times. You do not earn service credit if you ever go out on leave without pay. If you're not getting a paycheck from your employer, you're not earning service credit. Okay, next category is purchased vacation. Some of our employers will allow you to purchase additional vacation on top of your earned vacation. So whenever you do that, whenever you take a purchased vacation, you mark that on your timesheet, you're not earning service credit during that purchased vacation. Now, over the course of a long career, if you need to purchase a little bit extra vacation here and there to take an extra vacation for your sanity, it's not going to affect your Acera retirement that much. Okay. So if you need to take a purchase vacation here and there, don't sweat it. You can always tack on, like if you take a week of purchase vacation, you can always tack on an additional week at the end of your career. Sold vacation. This is where you take your earned vacation and instead of going out on vacation, you take basically your vacation balance and you sell part of it back to your employer for cash. If you sell your vacation, you do not get service credit. Also, you do not get service credit for overtime, on-call time, or standby time. Okay. So these are the types of time when you're not earning service credit. Okay, so, and just real quick, somebody's asking about the PIN. The PIN is the personal identification number that you will get in the mail whenever you whenever you want to set up your Member Direct account. Your Member Direct account is your personal retirement account with Acera. You go to acera.org, you click login. If you already have a username and password, you don't have to worry about the PIN. It's a one-time use. Once you use the PIN to enroll, you throw it away and you just use your username and password after that. But if you've never set up this account, you got to click enroll, and then you got to request an enrollment pin, and and so you fill out your info or hit request pin, and then you get it in the mail. That's the pin that I'm talking about. Um, and so once you do that, you come back to this enrollment page, use your pin to enroll, then throw the pin away because it's no longer useful. Okay, so thanks for that question. Okay, so I see a bunch of questions popping up about service credit. I may answer your question. I'm gonna wait. I have a few more slides about service credit, and then I'll get to those questions. Okay. So because service credit is one of the three multipliers in the retirement formula, and because now we know the more service credit you have, the higher your retirement allowance is going to be that comes out of that formula. The first way that you dial in the service credit number is just by earning more service credit, by working longer, working a longer career. The second way you can increase the amount of service credit that we'll use in the formula for you is if you have a type of eligible time to purchase, you can purchase this time as service credit. It's called service credit purchase. You can't just purchase any old time that you want. Like you just can't purchase an extra year if you want, what is sometimes referred to as airtime. The law does not allow for that. But there are some types of time that you can purchase, and the theme here is kind of like you incurred a type of time or a type of situation that the law did not allow for you to earn service credit in that situation, but it does allow for you to come back and purchase it later. So let me walk you through these. The first category is eligible. It's called ineligible or non-covered service purchase. So this is time, basically time worked before your full-time retirement eligible position that you then transitioned into. Okay. This does not include time worked for an employment agency or a temp agency. So that was for another employer. You can't purchase that time. Also, not included in here is time that you worked under contract. So if you had a contract to work, that is not purchasable. But if you worked part time, just plain old part time, not for an employment agency or temp agency, just part time for your employer, that time is purchasable once you achieve your SARA membership. Also, tap time. Somebody was asking about that. TAP is the county's temporary assignment pool. All the TAP time is purchasable. And then that question about tap time is also asking about how you do the purchase. I will get to that. Okay, definitely. So and definitely everyone who's asking questions that I'm going to get to, thanks for your questions. I'm definitely going to get to all your questions, and I really appreciate the questions too because I want to make sure that you all get all your questions answered and come to the complete understanding that you need to plan your future retirement. So definitely, if you have a question, definitely keep continue to ask the questions, and I'll get to them. Okay, so tap time we covered seasonal, intermittent, service as needed, project, per diem. These are some other designations of basically time worked before your full-time retirement eligible position. Okay, so those are all purchasable. The 2 day lag time between your hire date and your entry date for those four employers who are not LERPD and the housing authority, that 2 weeks is purchasable. Unpaid medical leave time that you go out on during your career is purchasable when you return from that leave, up to 1 year per instance. It's for your medical condition only, not for a family member's medical condition. And so sometimes what will happen is you go out on medical leave, you'll burn through all your sick leave and perhaps all your other leave times. As I said before, you are already earning service credit for that time. But then if you're just still out on unpaid medical leave, you stop getting your paycheck because you don't have any more leave times. When you return from that unpaid medical leave, you can buy that time. Sometimes this is known as FMLA, because the FMLA designation is referencing the federal law, the Family Medical Leave Act, that says that you can be out for 12 weeks, and there may be some other circumstances that make it longer, where your employer cannot fire you basically for being out on unpaid medical leave. Or just medical leave in general. So if you are out on FMLA, That's kind of like the designation, the federal law that, makes it so that you can keep your job. But then within that designation, any portion of that time that's unpaid medical leave becomes purchasable because you have not earned service credit for it yet, and you have to return from that leave. And this is 1 year per instance. So if you're out on 1 year of unpaid medical leave, you return, receive one paycheck, go out on another, you can buy that 1 year, you go out on another year of unpaid medical leave, return, receive at least one paycheck. You can buy that year as well. State disability insurance leave, workers' comp is kind of lumped in here as well. This is where you have a disability, so you're out of work, or you're on workers' comp, you're out of work. Sometimes what happens is you're paid a partial paycheck by your employer. You earn service credit for that partial time, and then you also receive a check from the state for that portion of the time that you're receiving the check from the state. You're not earning service credit for, and that's the portion that becomes purchasable upon returning from that leave. Military leave during membership. This is not prior military service. This is where you are actively employed by one of our six employers. Usually, the case is that you're a reservist, and you're called up to active duty. And so you go out on the military leave, and thank you for serving that leave. That's amazing. And then upon returning from that military leave, you can buy that time as a Sarah service credit. Okay, and then we have redeposits of prior memberships. This is where you used to be an Sarah member in the past because you were working for one of our employers. And when you were in that prior membership, you were earning service credit toward retirement with a Sarah, and you were also paying into the system through your employee contribution. Okay, what happened was you stopped working for that employer, and when you did that, you took a refund of the balance of your employee contribution account. So you took your money with you, and when that happened, you basically canceled your Sarah membership and you lost all that service credit. Now you're working here again, and you're thinking back to that prior time, and you're thinking, I wish I had that service credit back. Well, you can get it back. All you need to do is redeposit an equivalent amount of money that you had taken out, and we will give you your prior service credit back, and that's called a redeposit of a prior membership. Okay, what are redeposits of community property? Okay, this is where, because California is a community property state, that means that any retirement that you earn with a Sarah while you are married or in a state registered domestic partnership, when you get divorced or you dissolve that state registered domestic partnership, your Sarah retirement account is part of the community property that may get divided. Now, some people will negotiate away a different, other parts of the community property to keep their Sarah account whole. Sometimes what happens, and I think this happens often, is that the ex-spouse or ex-domestic partner will take part of your Sarah account with them as part of their community property, based on the agreement that you make with them. So what happens is they get a separate account. Now, if they decide to take a refund of their account, we will let you know that by sending you a letter in the mail. And at that point, you have the opportunity to redeposit an equivalent amount of money that your ex-spouse took a refund of to get back the service credit that they took with them. Because when they got their account, they took part of your service credit and part of your money, basically. And so if they take a refund of the money, the service credit on their end disappears. They don't get to do anything with that. So over here in your account, you can redeposit equivalent amount of money and get an equivalent amount of service credit back. And that is a redeposit of community property. Okay, now the last category, other prior public service. This is where you used to work for another public agency in California, and you're not eligible to collect their pension, usually for two reasons. One is that you didn't work there for long enough to qualify for their pension, or two, when you left work at that other public agency, you took a refund of your account with them. So you basically canceled your membership over there. So again, you're not eligible to collect from their pension. So you can buy that time as a service credit. Some examples are East Bay Mud, the Port of Oakland, all the counties in California, different cities, state jobs. If you're not eligible to collect the pension from their pension system, you can buy that time with a Sarah. Now, having said that, If you are eligible, like if you worked there long enough and you still have an active account over there and you will be able to collect a pension from them one day, in most cases, you probably want to leave that money over there and wait to collect the pension when you become eligible for that. Because these, we do make you take a refund of your account with their pension in order to buy it as a Sarah time. And that this purchase costs a lot. This is very expensive. This costs two or three times as much as these purchases, and I'll talk about why in just a second. So, if you do have a credit with another pension system and you are eligible to collect from that pension one day, it's probably in most cases beneficial to leave it there. If you ever want to talk to my colleagues about that to help you decide on that, feel free to give us a call at 628 510 3000, and they'll walk you through that. Um, Another side note that I like to make here is if you have reciprocity with a different system in California, which means you have credit on deposit with a different pension system and you've linked that system with a SARA, you don't worry. Service credit purchasing in that category, you don't worry about because you don't have to do it. We already have the system linked together, and you basically you have to leave your credit on deposit over there in order to maintain your reciprocity establishment. Okay, we will talk about reciprocity in the second half of the presentation. Somebody's asking the session ends at 11:30. If you want to dip out at 11:30, that's totally fine. We will have deferred comp presentation go from about 11:15 till about noon. Um, if you have to leave at 11:30, feel free. Anytime anyone has to leave, feel free to leave. It's not going to hurt my feelings, and you can always watch the recording later. Okay, so let's see here. I do have a few more slides on service credit. One thing I like to point out here is that I just read through the list, right? Eligible service credit purchases. Maybe you don't have any of this time now, but it's good for you to hear this right now because maybe at some point in the future you do incur one of these types of time. Maybe you incur some unpaid medical leave, or maybe you get divorced and there's a division of community property and you need to know about that. Okay. So maybe in the future this happens. The reason I like to walk you through this in detail now is because of the service credit purchase cost. Because it's good to know that the sooner you purchase service credit, the cheaper it's going to be. And before I talk about that, let me just run through this list of times that are not eligible for purchase. Vacation purchase time. That's the extra vacation purchase time that you purchase on top of your earned vacation. You do not earn service credit for that, and it's also not purchasable later. Non-medical leave without pay, not purchasable. Contract or temporary agency time, not purchasable. Other prior public service time where you still have contributions on deposit with the other agency, not purchasable. Okay, so regarding purchase cost, how much does it cost to make a service credit purchase? What it's going to cost you is what your employee contributions would have been had you worked the time that you're trying to purchase. So, for example, let's say you're trying to purchase 3 months worth of unpaid medical leave time. Okay. So that means that you go out on 3 months of unpaid medical leave and you return from that leave and go back to work. Okay. And during that 3 months, you are not receiving a paycheck from your employer. Well, because you were not getting paid, Acera was not taking out a contribution, an employee contribution from your paycheck. Remember, I said that every time you get paid, we take out a little bit of your paycheck and put it into Acera's fund. Well, you weren't getting paid for us to do that, okay? So, if you want to purchase that 3 months of unpaid medical leave, what it's going to cost you is whatever your contributions would have been had you worked for that 3 months and received a paycheck for that 3 months. So whatever 3 months worth of deductions to Acera from your paychecks would be, that's how much it's going to cost you to make that 3 month service credit purchase. Plus interest. The interest, I mean, the reason that you have to pay interest is because had you contributed to Acera for that 3 months during that unpaid medical leave time in this example, we would have invested that money. And usually we earn interest. We have two 6-month interest periods per year. So usually we earn interest, and that money, that those contributions would have earned interest had we had it to invest, but we did not have it to invest because you were out on unpaid medical leave and you did not make the contributions. So you're going to have to pay the interest that that money would have earned. Okay. Now, the longer you wait to purchase service credit, the more expensive it gets because we keep running through these 6-month interest periods. So every 6 months, once we pass June 30th and December 31st, every time we pass one of those dates and you don't make the service credit purchase, that's another 6 months of interest that you're going to have to pay to make the service credit purchase. So the time to purchase service credit is as soon as you can. In fact, as soon as in the future, if you incur one of these types of time, like as soon as you come back from unpaid medical leave or military leave or state disability insurance leave, for example, as soon as you can, make the service credit purchase. And in some cases, if you make it immediately, you won't have to pay any interest. Okay. So the time to purchase service credit is as soon as you can because the interest continues to accrue. Now, how do you actually figure out how much it's going to cost to make a service credit purchase? Let's say you already have one of those types of time and you're wondering how much it's going to cost. Well, all you need to do is complete our purchase request form. So you go to acera.org/forms, find the purchase request form, fill it out, send it in to us. We will do calculations and we'll send you a letter with the cost of making the service credit purchase and some options. And at that point, you can decide if you want to make the service credit purchase or even how much of the service credit purchase you want to make. Because if you going back to the list, all of the types of time except for the two redeposits, you could just purchase a portion of it if you want. That the redeposits are basically all or none, but all the other ones you can do just some of it. So that's an option for you. One more thing I want to point out while we're on this slide is that if you're purchasing one of these types at the top, one of these types, except for the other California prior public service, what you're paying is only the employee contribution because then the employer is going to make their contribution to match yours. If you're purchasing an other California prior public service time, you're paying both the employee and the employer contribution. That's why this one costs 2 or 3 times as much as the other ones. Okay, so that's how you request the service credit purchase. To request us to do the calculation. When you receive the letter, you can decide whether you want to make the service credit purchase at that time. If you don't want to make it, throw the letter away or just file it. If you decide not to do it, you're not obligated to do it. Um, we will also present you with some options. If you do want to make the service credit purchase, you can write us a lump sum check on a post-tax basis. Or you can roll over pre-tax funds from one of these other types of retirement accounts to make the service credit purchase. Or we will split up the cost uh, over time and take it out of your paycheck on a post-tax basis through payroll deductions to make it easy for you. It's basically the easy payment plan. Or we'll do any combination of the above. So if you have some lump sum money sitting around in your checking account that you want to use and some roll over some money from a pre-tax account and then split up the rest over different payments from your paycheck, we'll do that for you. Okay. So you have all these options. Okay, let me see. Let me go back to the service credit questions and let me see if I answered all of them. Okay, so we covered TAP. You can purchase TAP time. We covered how to request the service credit purchase. And then you were asking about, is it lump sum deducted from your paycheck? Both options. Yep, you have all these options. Okay, so then let's see here. Okay, somebody is asking if you, let's say that you earn 4 hours of vacation and later you sell 4 hours of vacation back to your employer. Do you earn service credit for that, basically, is the question. You do not earn service credit for that because it's not real, there's not really any time occurring. It's like an instantaneous sale of your vacation balance, so you don't get any service credit for that. If you're in tiers one and two, you may get credit in the salary portion of the formula, which I'll talk about in just a minute, but you do not get service credit for selling vacation. You only get service credit for taking the earned vacation. And somebody's asking, I would like to know what medical benefits are earned with service credit. Okay, I know what you're asking. We will get to that later when I talk about the medical, dental, and vision benefits. Okay, somebody says I was tapped before. I believe you can purchase that time. Okay, yep. We did cover that. You can purchase all the tap time, and then you have all of these options to make the service credit purchase. Okay, somebody's asking about terminating employment. We'll get to that a little bit. We will discuss deferred compensation at length. We have a 45-minute presentation on that from 11:15 to noon. And then somebody's asking, do you lose service credit by selling vacation? You don't really lose service credit by selling vacation because you're just earning service credit while you're working. And if you sell your earned vacation, instead of taking a like let's say instead of taking week vacation, you're actually going to be showing up to work for that week. So you're going to earn service credit during that time. You're going to get extra cash for selling your vacation. So yeah, you don't really your service credit balance never goes down. You just earn more and more service credit, and if you do sell your vacation, you get cash for it. You don't earn service credit for the sale of the vacation, but you also don't lose service credit. Okay, so we talked a lot about the age factor. We talked a little bit about the age factor percentage. We talked a lot about the service credit. Let's talk about how the highest average monthly salary is calculated, and this will help you think about how to dial that in. Okay, so what are we looking at when we're calculating highest average monthly salary? Well, what our software is going to do when you go to retire is it's going to find your period of highest consecutive pay from anywhere in your career. So if you have a long 20-year career, it's going to look at your entire career's worth of payroll records and it's going to find your highest consecutive pay periods. And this is known as your final compensation period, your period of highest consecutive pay during your career. If you're in tiers one and three, your final compensation period is your highest 26 biweekly consecutive pay periods or 12 monthly consecutive pay periods. If you're in tiers two and four, it's your highest 78 biweekly or 36 monthly consecutive pay periods. So essentially, for tiers one and three, it's your highest year of pay. And for tiers two and four, it's your highest consecutive 3 years of pay. Okay. Now, how do we do the calculation? Well, our goal is to find and take an average salary over that time. So, what our software will do is look at your total pay over that highest year of pay or highest 3 years of pay. And to get an average monthly salary, it basically divides by the number of months in that time. So, by 12 or 36 to get an highest average monthly salary. So, basically, for tiers two and four, which probably the vast majority of you are in, it's looking at your highest 3 years and the total amount and then averaging out your pay over that highest 3 years. Okay. And it's looking at gross pay before any deductions are taken out. And the pay types that can go into this highest average salary calculation is four broad categories here. The first is your base pay, which, of course, that's going to make up the bulk of your highest average salary. The second is that you may have another pay code that may be included or may not be included. So there's like 1,000 different pay codes. They're usually based on a skill that you have, perhaps an education level that you have. Sometimes there's like a work situation that gives you a different pay code. Sometimes these are known as footnotes. Um, some of these will be included, some of these will not be included. The law is pretty clear on how, which ones should be included and which ones should not be. All you need to do is, if you're curious about whether your pay code is included in this highest average salary calculation, go to our page on pay codes, acera.org/pay codes, and find your pay code on the pay code list for your employer. And it will say yes or no whether it is included in this highest average salary calculation. And if it is, that means that your highest average salary will be a little bit higher than your base pay based on that extra, that extra pay code. So you will get a little boost to your salary based on that pay code that you have. The one pay code that I know that does not count ever towards the salary calculation is overtime. Okay. And if you have trouble finding your pay code on the list, you can ask your payroll manager for more info because they can usually figure it out for you. So those are the main two types of pay that will be included in your highest average salary calculation. Now, there are two other types. This is for tiers 1 and 2 only. Tiers 3 and 4 are not included in here. If you sell vacation back to your employer during that period of highest pay, that final compensation period, um, that could give you a little boost to your salary. Or if you cash out vacation, um, which means that you simply have your earned vacation left over on the books when you stop working, and it so happens that your final compensation period is at the end of your career, which it is in the vast majority of cases because most people are making the highest rate of pay at the end of their career. Um, if you get a vacation cash out at that time, some of that could be included as well. Now, I'm not going to take a deep dive into this topic because I can talk about this for 20 minutes. And in fact, I do talk about it for 20 minutes in our pre-retirement video. So if you are curious about that topic, all you need to do is go to acera.org, scroll down to here, go to the pre-retirement webinar, click play. It is a YouTube video. You can click here to actually watch it on YouTube. And all you need to do is fast forward to basically the slide that I was just showing you. Um, it'll look pretty much the same. This, oops. Okay, it's going to be slow. Anyway, fast forward to fast forward to this slide where I'm talking about the types of pay, and then I do that deep dive into how vacation pay affects the salary component of the formula. So let me see here. There were some questions on salary. Let me make sure I answered those. Okay, so somebody's asking, how do we calculate our annual income? Looking at our pay stubs, if we're paid biweekly, is it the biweekly salary amount times 26? Does longevity pay, share the savings, floating holidays, paid leave also count toward that income? Okay, so let me address floating holidays and paid leave. All of the leave times that you incur, like that, paid leave, comp time, floating holidays, those are all use it or lose it. And those do not affect the salary component of the formula. Okay, so there's no effect on salary for those leave times. You just basically, it's just kind of like an extra vacation leave that you don't get cashed out for. It's use it or lose it. So that's why I personally always use those balances first because I'm in tier 2, so the vacation leave could have a little boost to my salary. So the vacation leave is worth more. Plus, you get cashed out for it. Even if you're in tier 4, you're going to get cashed out for your unused vacation leave when you stop working here. You just won't get salary credit for it. Okay. Now let me address. You were asking about the biweekly salary or the longevity pay and share the savings. I doubt share the savings. I see. I don't think share the savings is probably one of the types of pay that counts toward the salary. If you do want to inquire about that, I actually don't know that for sure. You probably want to talk to one of my colleagues. So you could email us at acera.org/contact, and that will actually take you into Member Direct. We are having all of our members email us through Member Direct these days. We started that back in the fall to keep your email super secure because there's lots of bad actors out there these days. So you can email us in your member direct account, or you can call us at 510-628-3000 if you do want to answer the definitive answer to share the savings count. But well, my guess is it does not count. Okay, now you were asking about um basically it looks like you were asking about, what the final compensation period is comprised of. And yeah, again, it's the highest, if you're in tiers 2 and 4, the highest 78 biweekly pay periods or 36 monthly pay periods, depending on if you're paid biweekly or monthly. So that's how that works. Somebody asked, this is calculated on base salary. Yep, base salary and any of this other stuff that we are allowed to include by law. And somebody's asking, can you please repeat the title of the YouTube video you just referenced? It is called the Pre-Retirement Webinar. So currently, this is acera.org, and there's some handy links down here. Currently, you are in the new employee mid-career webinar. So you would want to look at the pre-retirement webinar, which is our webinar for people who are within 3 years of retirement. And that's the one that you would want to look at. If you want to see, if you want to access any past webinar, if you go under news and events and you go down to retirement planning seminars, we post all of our past webinars out here. So you can see all of them listed out here. But they're all pretty much the same, like I said. Okay, so somebody is asking. Okay, well, actually, let me get to this first. Okay, it sounds like I've confused you. Okay, so it sounds like essentially your question is you used to your understanding is that um the Acera calculation, you would get a certain percentage of your highest average salary. That is correct. And then it sounds like I confused you with the slide where I was showing you future retirement income, where I showed you the Acera pension, the Social Security, and the additional savings and investments. So, what basically what I'm going to explain to you is not only the Acera calculations, but additionally, I'm going to talk about how to make sure that you are achieving at least 80% income replacement. So you are replacing at least 80% of your working income with income from not only the Acera pension, but Social Security and additional savings. So I will talk about that in the second half of the presentation. But what I'm talking about right now is just the Acera component. So you are correct that you are going to get a percentage of your highest salary as your Acera pension. And that will comprise a portion. Usually it doesn't get you quite to 80% income replacement. Maybe it'll get you to 50% income replacement or 40%, but we'll fill in the rest with Social Security and additional savings if your Acera pension doesn't get you the income replacement target that helps you maintain your standard of living. So these are all separate systems. Acera is separate from Social Security, is separate from deferred compensation, is separate from your personal savings and investments. But what I'm telling you right now is just the Acera component of it. So yes, you will get a percentage of your salary from Acera based on how much credit you earned toward retirement in the categories of the age factor percentage, the service credit, and the salary is, based on the retirement formula. Okay, somebody was asking, what's the cap for highest monthly salary? So that actually that's a good segue into the next slide, which is that if you are in tier 4, there is a cap on the amount of annual salary dollars that we were allowed to include in the highest average salary calculation for you. The reason that this cap exists is because when the state passed the Public Employees Pension Reform Act in 2012, also known as PEPRA, that took effect on January 1st, 2013, and created Tier 4, so that everyone who enters a SARA after January 1st, 2013 goes into Tier 4. They also included this part in the law that caps the highest average salary calculations. And it's based on the Social Security wage index limit numbers that the federal government gives us. You don't have to know that, but we publish what the numbers are in any particular year out on our website at acera.org/limits. So if you do go to this website, you can always see what the numbers are for that particular year. So if you were to retire in 2026, we would have to cap the annual, we would have to cap the dollars on an annual basis. For like general members, the cap would be $159,733. So if you had, let's say, a $200,000 salary, that means that, and you retired in 2026, for that 2026 year, we couldn't include more than $159,733 in the total amount of dollars that you made when we're taking the average to figure out what the highest average salary is for the formula. So what that means effectively for you in the present, since you're if you do have a high salary that is above the cap currently, above the current cap, if your retirement is a ways away, um, your retirement allowance, your highest average monthly salary calculation is going to be based on probably years from now because you're going to, your salary is going to go up over the years. And so it'll be based on whatever the cap is then. But what it means for the present is that we do not take out employee retirement contributions from your paycheck for any paychecks you get that are over the cap. So, for example, let's say that your salary as a general member is $200,000, and so you hit this cap in October. Basically, by the time October rolls around in the calendar year, you have been paid $159,733. So we will stop taking money out of your check and putting it into a Sarah's fund for the rest of the calendar year. And then on January 1st, your employee contribution kicks back in. So you do get more in your paycheck for the rest of the year. And if you time it right, you could make it so that you use that extra money to put into your deferred compensation account for the rest of the year, if you do that in advance. Or otherwise, it gives you more money to put into your personal savings for the rest of the year. So that's how those caps work. And somebody's asking for clarification on that previous question. You're asking to clarify, will you use a scenario from the Acera chart that would give you 80% from Acera alone? Okay, I'll show you. Okay, this is actually a good slide to illustrate this. Okay, here's an example. So we talked about the whole retirement formula. We talked about the age, the years of service, and the highest average monthly salary. So in this example, this tier 4 member retires at age 65 after earning 25 years of service credit exactly, which is why all of the decimal places are zeros. Okay. Normally, that's not going to happen. It'll say like 25.128564 because you don't retire exactly on on the year. Okay, but in this example, they retired after earning exactly 25 years of service credit. Okay, now they're a tier 4 member, and I don't say this, but they're a general member, and they retired at age 65. So based on them being a tier 4 general member and retiring at age 65, when we go to the age factor percentage chart, we see that for retiring at age 65 as a general tier 4 member, 2.30% is the age factor percentage that we should plug into the formula. So this tier 4 member will get 2.30% of their highest salary for each one of these 25 years of service. Okay. So if we multiply this all out, that gives them a monthly retirement allowance of $3,450. Okay. So again, we calculated the highest average monthly salary based on their highest 3 years of consecutive pay periods, and that gave us $6,000. Now, if what this member is getting a percentage of this salary, their retirement allowance is a percentage of their highest salary. What percentage is it? Well, if we multiply the age factor percentage times the years of service, because they're getting 2.30% of their highest salary for each one of these 25 years, that equals 57.5%. So $3,450 is 57.5% of 6,000. They are replacing 57.5% of their $6,000 salary with their retirement allowance. Okay. So they're achieving 57.5% salary replacement from just the Acera pension. So they are not getting to 80% salary replacement, but in most cases, we don't really expect people to get to 80% salary replacement from the Acera pension alone, which is why I am going to explain the Social Security and personal savings component to you later, so that we can fill in the gap. So this person is not achieving that. Um, if you want a handy way to see what the different combinations are where we've already multiplied it out for you, go to acera.org. You can either type in acera.org/planning, or you can go under members and go down to this third article right here, planning your future retirement income. And this actually gives you four options for kind of estimating your Acera pension. This method number two here, we have these charts where we have done all those multiplications out for you. So if you're a General Tier 4 member, you would click on General Tier 4 and you'll see this PDF. And across the top, it has ages at which you might retire. And down here on the y-axis, it has years of service credit. So if in your scenario, you're going to retire at 20 years, service credit at age 62, you can see that you would achieve 40% income replacement in that scenario. And then to figure out what the effect of working another year and aging another year would be is you proceed diagonally down the chart. So if you retired instead at age 63 with 21 years of service credit, you would get 41%, 44% income replacement. If you worked another year after that, you get 48% income replacement. Another year after that, 52.9% income replacement. So this can kind of give you an idea of the relationship between the age at retirement and service credit in regards to how much of your salary the Acera pension is replacing. So that's a pretty good way to kind of get a mental handle on that. And then somebody's asking, is it gross or net salary? Your highest average monthly salary calculation is based on gross salary before any deductions are taken out. Okay, for the next topic, let me help you get a precision pension estimate. Your first step is to go to acera.org and click the login button. Now, like I was saying before, if you have not done this yet and you've been here for at least 7 weeks, you're going to have to request a PIN when you go uh, when you click login, click enroll, and click request a PIN, and then after you receive in the mail, you can log in. And then once you do that, you will get into Member Direct. So here are some screenshots of Member Direct. And what you're going to do is click on this tool right here, Estimate a Benefit. And I'm just going to zoom in here slightly so that you can see it a little bit bigger. And it's just going to ask you for a retirement scenario. So all you need to do is think of a plausible retirement scenario for yourself. So maybe you're going to retire. You want to see what your retirement would be if you retire in 15 years. So you just pick a date, a set of dates that aligns with this scenario. Now it's asking you for two dates. One is separation date and one is payments begin date. Separation date is your last day on your employer's payroll. Payments begin date is your first day of retirement. If you just if you don't really know what you're going to do yet, or if you just want to see what the effect would be of working straight through to retirement and then retiring immediately, these would just be 2 consecutive days, just like in this example. But if you want to see what would happen if you work up to a certain point, stop working for your employer and defer your retirement to a later date, you can do that as well. You would just, make the payments begin date later. Okay. You can put in beneficiary info in here. You may note that if you've already designated your beneficiary with a SARA for the active member death benefits, the beneficiary may be pre-populated. So you can just leave that as it is if you like, or you can change it. If you do leave it as is, just double check the date of birth because some of them are incorrect. And if the date of birth is incorrect, it could throw off some of the calculations. I recommend not using these to modify your estimate, but you can try them out to modify your estimate if you want to. If you just leave them unchecked, you get a nice conservative estimate. And then you click generate, and you end up with this PDF retirement benefit estimate. So it's 4 pages. The first page is your estimated monthly benefit. So there's a table. The second page is all of the data that it uses to calculate that. So all that stuff I just explained to you, like the final compensation period, that is your average salary date range, and that'll be right here. The average monthly salary, it does make a projection of your average monthly salary. So the best way to get a to get that projection is just to let it do its thing and get the projection. It is based on your current pay. So if you it's not going to project pay increases. So if you do want to see the effect of pay increases, especially if you are thinking about cost of living increases or perhaps the effect of getting a promotion or the effect of taking a different job in a different position that has an increase in pay, you can override the salary in that estimate by checking this box, enter an average salary rather than using the calculated amount, and you can enter whatever salary you want. And that would be average monthly salary. So it's probably best to run it without checking that box the first time so you can see which salary it is calculating for you. And then on the next go round, you can increase it to see what the effect of an increased salary would be. It's also listing out your years of service credit and your age at retirement. And based on the age at retirement, that's, the age factor percentage is it's going to use from the chart. It doesn't actually say what the age factor percentage is on the estimate, but you can look it up on our website. If you are going to make a service credit purchase, you could, and you want to see the effect of making that service credit purchase, you can check this box and you can increase your service credit by having a user entered service credit here. So what you would do is run it clean one time without the box checked, hit generate, see how much service credit it's putting in here, and then whatever service credit you're trying to buy, you would want to add that to this number. So this one says 29.06384. If you wanted to see the effect of buying a half year's worth of service credit, like you had a half year of unpaid medical leave, you would just add zero point 0.5 to this number. Check the box, put it in here, run it again, and then you would get a retirement benefit estimate with a increased member monthly benefit, and then you can decide if it's worth it to make the service credit purchase based on how much it would potentially increase your retirement allowance. Okay, so just to zoom in on your estimated monthly retirement benefit box, it is giving you different estimates based on these retirement options. When you go to retire, you're going to select one of these 5 retirement options. And based on which option you select, it changes what your member monthly benefit is and also what your beneficiary could potentially receive in a continuance. If you're new or you're in the middle of your career, you probably don't need to learn about that yet. If you do want to learn about that, you can go to acera.org/retire and it explains what all the options do. But mostly you don't need to know about that until you're closer toward your retirement and you see what your retirement situation is there. I mostly just recommend navigating by this number, which is what the vast majority of people choose anyway, because it pays the highest retirement allowance. It's called the unmodified option. So if you just kind of navigate by this number while you're doing your retirement planning, you'll probably be pretty safe. Okay, so that's how you get a precision retirement benefit estimate. There's actually not a lot to explain because it only takes like 5 minutes to do. And once you've done a couple, it takes like 1 minute to do. So, use that system as much as you want. It does generate a PDF benefit estimate. On the estimate, it tells you, what all the numbers that you plugged in, and it tells you what date you're running the estimate. So you could just save all of these PDFs in a retirement planning file, and you can always refer back to them to see what your estimate was at that particular time. Okay, so let me help you understand retirement eligibility. You become eligible to retire through a combination of your years of service credit and age. For tiers one, two, and three, there are three different combinations that will get you to retirement eligibility. And like I was saying earlier, your retirement eligibility date is the first day that you could retire from a SARA, but you don't have to retire on this date. You can keep working past your initial retirement eligibility to earn more credit toward retirement to earn a higher pension from a SARA. Okay, so for tiers one, two, and three, there's three different combinations. I'll show you tier four in a minute. So combination one is that you are at least age 50 and you have at least 5 years of service credit. You don't really have to think about this membership number because everyone in tiers one, two, and three already has 10 years of membership because those closed more than 10 years ago. So for option number one, you're at least age 50 and you have at least 5 years of service credit, and you can retire from a SARA and draw a lifetime pension based on, however much service credit you have. Even if it's just 5 years, you would draw a lifetime pension based on that 5 years of service credit. Option number two is that you're at least 30 years, you have at least 30 years of service credit as a general member, or as a safety member, you have at least 20 years of service credit. You can retire at any age, even if it's younger than age 50, the age 50 that you would need for option number one. Or at age 70, you can retire with any amount of service credit, even if it's less than the 5 years you need to retire at age 50. So if you left here and you only had 4 years of service credit, you could wait until age 70 and draw a lifetime pension at age 70 and after, based on the less than 5 years of service credit that you have. For tier four, so that was tiers one, two, and three. For tier four, you have two combinations that get you to retirement eligibility. Option number one is you're at least 52 years of age as a general member, or at least 50 years of age as a safety member, and you have at least 5 years of service credit. You can retire from a SARA and start drawing your lifetime pension. Or option number two is if you have less than the 5 years, you can retire at age 70 with any amount of service credit, even if it's less than the 5 years. Okay, so you can see you don't actually need a really high age or a really high amount of service credit to be eligible to retire. Now, having a greater age and a greater amount of service credit will significantly boost the amount that you get paid from a SARA. Okay, let me talk about some additional benefits. Somebody was asking about this earlier. I'm going to talk about healthcare benefits, disability retirement. I'll talk about healthcare benefits in just a minute. Disability retirement is where you become permanently disabled and you can no longer perform your job duties. So if that happens, you can apply for disability retirement instead of waiting for the regular service retirement that you would have otherwise applied for. So disability retirement is a separate track. There's a separate process. You can read more about it at acera.org/disability. But if you do ever become permanently disabled, you can apply for disability retirement. And you can even, if you're already eligible for the regular service retirement, you can apply for that while you're waiting for the disability retirement to be decided because our board of retirement does have to decide on that. And then death benefits. So let me talk about the healthcare benefits first, then I'll talk about the death benefits. Okay, healthcare benefits. I'm not going to talk too much about this because the healthcare may look a little bit different by the time you all retire. This is how it works currently. The way it works is we have this reserve fund, okay? And it pays for these non-guaranteed benefits. So the healthcare benefits are not guaranteed benefits. They're non-vested, non-guaranteed benefits. They're extra benefits that the county started this reserve fund in 1984 because they wanted to have their retirees have this extra money available to be able to pay for these type of expenses in retirement, healthcare expenses. Sarah, Alameda County offers a higher amount of subsidies for healthcare and these type of benefits than any county in California because we have this reserve fund. No other county has a reserve fund like this. There's two other counties that kind of do, but it's not very well funded. Ours is very well funded. Our board of retirement maintains the sustainability of this fund. So they get to choose the rules on who gets to receive the non-guaranteed benefits. And their whole goal is to keep it sustainable. So they might tweak the benefits a little from time to time. They're not guaranteed benefits. They can adjust them to make sure the fund stays sustainable. They might reduce or eliminate them. They usually don't do that. They usually just tweak them a little bit. But they do have this set of criteria in order to keep the fund sustainable. They have basically a minimum set of criteria you need to be able to collect and get paid these extra benefits in retirement. Um, so it's based on years of Acera service credit to qualify. Okay, now we do have five non-guaranteed benefits here. There's a medical subsidy known as the monthly medical allowance, which is what MMA stands for. There's three levels of it: a dental subsidy, vision subsidy, Medicare subsidy that helps you pay for the cost of being enrolled in Medicare, and a supplemental cost of living adjustment, which is additional to the guaranteed cost of living adjustment. Now, the reason I like to just orient you to the fact that these benefits are being offered now, even though you're not anywhere near retirement yet, is because of this column right here. You need a certain number of years of Acera service credit to start qualifying for them. And you can see that the healthcare benefits start at 10 years of Acera service credit. Reciprocal service credit doesn't count here. And if you do achieve 15 years of service credit or 20 years of service credit with Acera, you get more for your medical, get a higher medical payment. Okay. So that's why I like to just tell you about it in terms of the a career planning, because you may, when you're thinking about the pension milestones, you may want to kind of mentally add a milestone here, which is that the healthcare subsidies start at 10 years of service credit. So maybe regarding career planning, you've been working here for 9.5 years and you're considering going somewhere else and doing something else. You may want to stick it out for 6 months and get over that 10-year mark, because once you pass the 10 years, you're eligible for part of the first level of the medical subsidy, the full dental and vision subsidy, and the full Medicare subsidy. And that is a lot of extra money in retirement. This is on top of your pension. Okay. This is in addition to your guaranteed pension. So it's just good in terms of career planning to think about, getting past these targets if you're close to them. If you get over the 15-year mark or the 20-year mark, you get more of a medical subsidy. Okay. I'm not going to take a deep dive into what the medical benefits currently are, but if you do want to look at that, we do have a whole healthcare page on our website under retirees, healthcare plans and benefits, and you can see what they currently are. We do talk about it at length in the pre-retirement webinar. Just real quick, somebody's asking, can the medical subsidy be used to keep our current health insurance, for example, Kaiser? Yeah, we offer the same plans that the county offers. And do the healthcare subsidies apply to the spouse? They do not. That's one of the board's ways to keep the fund sustainable, is the subsidy is only offered to offset the cost of your care. You can enroll your spouse or your family members, but there's no subsidy for them. Okay, so moving on to designating your beneficiary or beneficiaries for death benefits and keeping them current. So let me tell you about death benefits. And somebody has a bunch of questions about the death benefits up there, and I think I'm probably about to answer all of those. What does this term mean, beneficiary? Well, it's just someone who gets benefits. Who is your Acera beneficiary? They are the person that you designate to get your Acera death benefits after your death. Okay. Now, when you retire, there is a set of death benefits that you can designate for your beneficiary or beneficiaries at that time. So I'm not going to talk about that in this webinar. I'm going to talk about what should happen should you die before you retire. Okay. So what death benefits are available to your beneficiary or beneficiaries should you die before retirement? Now, first off, if you're actively working here, so you have a job with one of our six employers, but you're not yet vested, which means you don't yet have the 5 years of service credit yet. And if you did die before you were able to retire, so you basically died in active employment status, I'm not saying that you die at work, it's just that you currently have a job. What we would do in terms of death benefits from Acera is we would basically refund the balance of your employee contribution account, so all the contributions plus interest, and we would also pay your beneficiary 1 month of salary for each year of service, up to 6 months worth of salary. So if you've already been working here for 4 years, your beneficiary would receive 4 months worth of your salary in addition to the refund of the contribution account. Now, let's say that you are vested, you have achieved 5 years of service credit, and you die before retirement as in active status. Now your beneficiaries get a choice. Option one, the one that I just showed you, is one of the options. Now, options two and three come with a survivor's allowance. It's to qualified beneficiaries only, and it's a monthly survivor's allowance that they would get every month after your death. They could pick option three, and they would get the survivor's allowance that is smaller, and they would get that lump sum one-time payment of 1 month of your salary for each year of service. Now, you'll note options two and three say to qualified beneficiary only. If you do the thing that I'm going to tell you to do on the next slide, you can forget about that. Okay, so here's the next slide. This is death benefits before retirement. You are vested when you die, and you have made what we call the advanced death benefit election. The advanced death benefit election is a single checkbox that you check on our beneficiary designation form. And what it does is it expands the group of people you can name for a lifetime survivor's allowance to any beneficiary. If you don't do it, the qualified beneficiaries are spouse, domestic partner, and minor children. And for the minor children, it's not a lifetime payment. If you do make the advanced death benefit election, it's any beneficiary. So you can name your minor children for a lifetime survivor's allowance. It also will, in most cases, be a little bit more of an allowance. It will maximize the dollar amount that they're receiving every month just by checking one box. Okay. So here's how you do that. If you want more info on this, you can read it about acera.org/ADV, and it explains the advanced death benefit election. The form, our beneficiary designation form, is at acera.org/BEN. Okay, so that's the shortcut. It will open a PDF. All you need to do is save the form to your device. You complete all the fields on the form. You check the box for the advanced death benefit election. You print the form and sign it, and then there's instructions on how to submit. Okay, let me show you the form. So I'm going to open a new tab here, and I'm going to go to acera.org/BEN, which is the shortcut to the beneficiary designation form. Okay. Now, even if you're not making this advanced death benefit election, this is the form where you always can designate your beneficiary or redesignate your beneficiary anytime you want. Okay. So, all you do for this to make the advanced death benefit election is you open this form. The first thing you do is save it to your device. Click save, save it to your device. Okay. Then you fill out all the info. You name your beneficiaries or beneficiary or beneficiaries. There's three sets of fields. You name contingent beneficiaries in case your main beneficiary that you named is not still alive when at your death. And then when you get to section 4, you just check the box. Okay. Then you scroll down, you fill out the rest of the info, you print this out. It's good to save it to your device. Print it out, sign it, and then the last page gives you 5 different options on how to submit it to us, including electronic options. Okay. Every active member, even if you're not vested yet, should make this advanced death benefit election. There's no downside to making it. There's only an upside in that it expands the group of beneficiaries you can name for the lifetime benefit, and it maximizes the amount. Deferred members, if you die as in deferred status, which means you've stopped working here, but you haven't retired yet, you're in deferred status, we would just return the balance of your account to your beneficiaries. Keep your beneficiary designations current. So whenever you log into your Acera account, your member direct account, look at the beneficiaries tab and make sure they're current. And if they're not, redesignate your beneficiaries. Okay, now let me help you understand career planning options. And what I mean by this, and I'm going to kind of hit the gas pedal here because I want to make sure to leave enough time for the retirement planning section, the retirement picture section. Okay, so understanding career planning options. What I mean by this is that you're going to stop working for your Acera employer at some point in the future. What are your options? You basically have two main options. And then of the second main option, you're going to have three sub options, A, B, and C. So the first main option is that if you're eligible to retire, you just go ahead and retire from Acera. You earn service credit right up until your retirement. We will actually convert your sick leave on a 2-to-1 basis up to a cap into additional service credit. So you get a little service credit boost. You can work after retirement anywhere else you want. We don't care. You can come back to work for your Acera employer, and you can even continue your retirement payments from Acera, or there's some restrictions on that. So check out the restrictions here. Or you can pause your retirement payments and earn a second retirement. So just because you stop working here and retire immediately and start collecting payments, and then you decide to go back to work for one of our participating employers, you can pause your retirement payments and earn a second retirement. Okay. So you earn additional retirement credits. And then once you retire from the second retirement, the first retirement starts again, and you have basically earned more money. You've earned a second retirement plus the initial retirement. So that's your first option in terms of career planning. Your second option is that you don't retire immediately. Maybe you're not eligible to retire yet when you stop working here. That's one reason that you would not retire immediately. So, what are your options if you don't retire immediately when you stop working here? Well, you got three sub options. You can defer, which means leave your contributions on deposit with Acera and maintain your membership. You can establish reciprocity with a different pension system in California, or you can take a refund of your employee contribution account and all the interest that has accrued in there. Okay, so let me walk you through each one of these. If you do defer, what is happening is that there's going to be a gap between your termination date and your retirement date. And maybe you don't even retire from Acera. Maybe you take option C and take a refund. I don't recommend it in most cases, but it's your option. Okay. So when you stop working, you're not retiring immediately. Okay. So option A is becoming a deferred Acera member, which means when you stop working here, you don't take a refund of your employee contribution account. You leave your contributions on deposit with Acera, and because you do that, you're still an Acera member. You're just a deferred member. Interest continues to accumulate. No negative interest. What do I mean by that? I mean that we don't take any money out of your account. If we happen to post a negative return for one of our interest periods for 6 months, we don't pass that negative return onto your account. Your money only goes up. So in that 6 month period, your interest posting would probably just be zero instead of a negative return. I cannot think of another place that you can park your money where we have historically earned the type of interest that we have tended to earn over long periods of time. And you can check that at acera.org/interest. You can see our interest history. I can't think of another place where you can park your money that it's absolutely safe that has the potential to earn that kind of interest. Okay, so you can retire later out of deferred status. So one major reason that people do this is they haven't reached the age that they can retire yet. Well, that's totally fine. You can stop working here. Let's say that you're a tier for general member and you're 49 and you're ready to stop working here, you can do that. And then you can just be a deferred member for 3 years. And when you hit age 52, you can retire from Acera and start drawing your lifetime pension. Or as a deferred member, you could come back to work into a retirement eligible position and earn more credit toward retirement. Or as a deferred member, you could be refunded at any time. So you could take option C later. So when you stop working here, you don't have to decide immediately. If you don't know which to do, if you don't know whether you want to maintain your membership or you want to take a refund, just don't take the refund yet. Wait for later. Interest is going to continue to accumulate during that time, and you could be refunded later. There are some good reasons to become a deferred member. There are some not so good reasons. There's more info at acera.org/defer. Okay, option B, when you stop working here and don't go immediately into retirement, is that you're establishing reciprocity with another pension system in California. What happens is you stop work here, you go work for another public agency that has a pension system that we have reciprocity with. There's a full list at acera.org/reciprocity. But basically, city jobs, county jobs, state jobs, any agency that uses the state system, CalPERS, to provide retirement to their employees, you can establish reciprocity with that system. And what happens is when you link the systems together, you create synergy between the systems. You basically get a better benefit than if you were retiring from two systems that were not linked together. And those benefits are that the service credit that you earn in all the systems combined gets you over the vesting and retirement eligibility requirements for all the systems. So if you have 2 years of work for Sarah and you go over and work in Contra Costa County for 3 years, that's 5 years combined. That means you're vested in both systems. And if you're over age 52 as a general tier 4 member, you're eligible to retire from both systems. Whereas if you did not establish reciprocity, you don't have enough years in those systems to retire. The highest average salary you earn under any of those systems is used by all the systems. So this is one of those ways that you can actually crank up and dial in that salary component of the retirement formula by getting a higher paying job in a reciprocal system. Okay. So if you're making, a certain salary here and you see that you could get a $5 or $10 raise or $15 raise and you apply for that job in another system that we have reciprocity with and you do get that, you become a member in both systems. And so you link them together. And then what happens is when you go to retire from both systems, we each do a separate calculation. But when a Sarah goes to calculate your retirement from here, if you're making a higher salary at a different pension system, we're going to use the higher salary to calculate your retirement from here based on your service credit here. So it boosts your retirement from all of the previous systems that you have linked together. And you can link as many systems together as you like. It could keep your contribution rate lower and it could put you in an earlier tier. And there's more on that at acera.org/tier and acera.org/reciprocity. Now, to qualify for reciprocity, all you need to do is leave your contributions on deposit with every system that you're linking together. So you don't take a refund. You become a deferred member in all of your previous systems. And then you get your next job within 6 months of leaving the first job so that there's no more than a 6 month gap. And then you can establish reciprocity. You also do not want to have more than 12 weeks of overlapping service. I recommend having 0, just to have no overlapping service. It makes it nice and easy. You just stop work here. And then some people will take like a vacation leave at the end to use up the vacation. They're going to cash you out for the vacation anyway. So just, take the cash out and start clean somewhere else. Don't overlap service in two different places. And then you have to retire from all the systems on the same day. And whenever that happens, we all do our separate retirement calculations and you receive a check from each one of the different pension systems based on the service credit and age factor percentage you have in each one of those systems, but we all use the same salary figure, essentially. And somebody's asking about the medical subsidy. Acera's medical subsidy reciprocal service does not count toward achieving that 10 years for the medical subsidy. Okay, option C. Should you leave here, employment here, and not retire immediately, is that you can take a refund. of your contribution account and all the interest that we've paid into it. If you take a lump sum payment, you're just looking for cash, you'll probably lose a third of your money to taxes and penalties unless you roll it over into another type of pre-tax retirement account, and we're happy to help you do that. These take time. These take 45 to 60 plus days. So it's not instantaneous, and you waive all your rights to a Sarah benefits. So you're saying, cancel my Sarah membership. I don't want to receive the lifetime benefit. I don't want access to the healthcare benefits or the death benefits. I'm just going to take my money and go, do with it what I need to do with it. So if you do that, feel free to do that. Just as a reminder, if you do leave your money on deposit here, we're going to continue to post interest to it anyway. So it's still invested and you can take a refund later, or you could retire later. And if you retire from a Sarah, we're going to give you all the money back anyway, but just through retirement payments. In the first 3 to 5 years, you get all your money back anyway. And then for the rest of your life, you get payments. So in most cases, you earn way more if you retire from a Sarah and draw the monthly lifetime payment than you do if you take a refund. If you want one of my colleagues to walk you through that, feel free to call us at 510-628-3000. Okay, so we have a few more minutes, so let me do this retirement planning picture. This is the last thing that we're going to talk about, and this is going to help us transition into the discussion regarding saving additional money in the 457B plan. Okay, so we're revisiting this slide. When you go to retire, you're going to need income. And in order to pay for your life and maintain your standard of living, that income through these three categories should be at least 80% of whatever you were making as a working employee. Okay, so how do you figure out now, because retirement is a ways away, how do you figure out now whether you are pointed in the trajectory of 80% income replacement? How do you figure out if a Sarah's pension is going to get you to 80%? In most cases, it's not. And how do you figure out if the combination of your pension and Social Security will get you to 80%? In a lot of cases, it won't. And if it won't, how do you figure out how much to save additionally to get pointed in the trajectory of 80% income replacement at least? Okay, I'm going to answer all those questions for you right now, and we're just going to use some technology to do it. And when I turn it over to our expert, our deferred compensation expert, Gene Hilliard, he's actually going to try to get you pointed at 100% income replacement. I'm just kind of going to do the minimum, 80%, but you can play with it and do different scenarios and kind of see if you can increase it and get pointed at 100%. Okay, so the first step is we're going to get some estimates. We need to fill out the first two parts of the equation to figure out if the savings and investments, if these two alone get us to 80%, or if we need to add savings and investments in here. Okay, so we need to get some projections. So I already showed you how to get the Acera estimate. So you can get out scratch paper and do your Acera estimate and your Social Security estimate, or you just save. They're all electronic estimates. You just save them in a folder on your device. So you go out and you get the Acera estimate by logging into your account. You do the estimated benefit for your plausible retirement scenario. Now, what I'm going to suggest for you is the first time you do this, pick a scenario where you are retiring at age 62. And the reason I'm going to suggest that is because at age 62 is the youngest age that you can collect Social Security. And so that way you can add in the Social Security immediately and it can help you have the income immediately between the Acera pension and Social Security. Now, once you do the scenario for age 62, then you can play with it and see, okay, maybe I can retire earlier, 61, 60, I just won't get to include the Social Security yet. 59, 58, you just kind of subtract the Social Security in those intervening years. But I recommend doing 62 to start off with, okay? So I'm going to do my Acera estimate. I'm going to choose a date range that gives me an estimate for retiring at age 62. And then I end up with this Acera PDF estimate, and I take note on what the unmodified option is telling me, and I write it down. Okay. Then I'm going to go out to get a Social Security estimate. So you can do that at ssa.gov/estimator. It's electronic. it's again your personal account, but over at Social Security, which is the federal government's um, sort of pension system. Um, it looks a little bit different like this now. I need to update this screenshot, but what it will do is give you three different estimates for three different retirement ages, and it will give you one starting at age 62. And there's going to be a slider in there where you can play with it, and you can get an estimate for any age after age 62. You get 63, 64, 65, and whatever. But like I said, I recommend starting at age 62, and then you can play with your scenarios a little bit. So you write that down. So you figure out what Social Security is going to pay you, what they're estimating they're going to pay you should you retire at age 62 to start off with. Okay, so you got all that written down. Now what you're going to do is so we know what the dollar amounts are. Okay, so we know what a Sarah is going to pay. We know what Social Security is going to pay, but we got to figure out the percentage, right? Because we want to figure out whether we're achieving the income replacement percentage that we're looking for. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to use a retirement calculator, a free retirement calculator. There's a bunch of them out on the web. The best ones will allow you to punch in your pension amount and your Social Security amount. So this is an example of some of those that will do it. The Empower Retirement Calculator, if you start a 457B account, you can use that inside your account. And Gene Hilliard, our 457B expert, who I'll turn it over to in a minute, will talk about that. I'm going to show you the Vanguard calculator. You don't have to log in anything to use it. They're all a little bit similar. They're all a little bit different. I recommend trying out a few different ones because they'll show you a little bit different trajectory, and you can kind of average it out just to make sure that you're not relying on one source. And the reason that they're providing these free calculators is because they want you to find out that you need to save additional money, and then they want like Vanguard wants you to invest with Vanguard. But you don't have to do that. You can just use their calculator for free. So this is what the Vanguard calculator looks like. I'm just going to do that one as an example. And in fact, I'll just show it to you live so you can see how this works. So first off, go to acera.org/planning or go under members at acera.org and go down to planning your future retirement income. And that takes you to this page. And this gives you a step-by-step and how you can do this on your own. And in fact, I'm kind of going through this quickly, but we created this video recently. You can stop and start this video, and it's showing you the exact process in this video that I'm showing you right now. And if you don't like to watch videos, this page just walks you through it step by step. So I'm going to scroll down here to step 4, where it gives you some links out to the different calculators you can try. And I'm going to go to the Vanguard calculator. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to figure out a couple of things. One is I want to figure out, will my pension and Social Security combined get me to at least 80% income replacement? And if not, how much additional might I want to save to get pointed in the trajectory of 80% income replacement? So what I'm going to do is plug in my situation here. I'm going to use a fictional retiree who is 35 years old. So let's say you're 35 years old. And like I said, a good idea is to start with a scenario where you're retiring at age 62. And then you tell it what your current annual salary is. And then you tell it how much you currently save per year of your salary. Well, let's say it's 0. Let's say you save nothing additional currently. That's totally fine. We'll just leave it at 0. But if you do currently save some, you can plug that in. Then it's asking you how much you've already saved. So you can look at the balance of your savings, investment accounts. You can plug that in here. Let's say it's 0. Let's say you haven't saved anything yet. Totally fine. Yeah. We're not going to stress out about it. We haven't saved anything yet. No big deal. We're going to figure out how much to save right now. Okay, this one is the income replacement target you are targeting. So I'm going to show you 80%. Do it once at 80. Then when you play with the calculator, see what happens if you crank it up to 85, 90, 95, 100. See how much additional savings it's telling you. Maybe you can save a little bit more and get pointed at a higher trajectory. This number right here is asking Basically, this number is assuming that if this calculator is going to tell you that you need to save additional money, it is assuming that you're going to take that money and invest it somewhere with the potential to earn interest on your money. And so it's basically asking you about your appetite for risk. And I think a pretty conservative portfolio, like if you invest in a diverse portfolio, like let's say in the 457B plan, um, with pretty conservative investments, that might get you like 6%. Okay, 5 or 6%. That's pretty conservative. Or kind of moderately conservative might be like 6 or 7. Eight is slightly getting out of the moderate. So I recommend somewhere between maybe 5 and 7. If you want to totally play it safe, 2, 3, 4 maybe. Currently, you can find high interest savings accounts that will actually get you about 4% with zero risk because it's all FDIC insured. So, that might change in the future. But basically, with the idea is that you're going to take your savings and put it somewhere where you can earn interest over long periods of time. Now, the market will go up and down in the short term. If you look at the history, the market tends to go up over long periods of time, despite the ups and downs in the short term. So that's kind of like that. That's kind of the idea here. The assumption is that over the long term, over long periods of time, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 years. Even if there's a negative return in one year, positive returns in future years will make up for that, and the market tends to go up. So this is basically your appetite for risk. I'm gonna go moderately conservative here. I'm gonna actually put in 6%. Okay. Now, this is where the power of this particular calculator comes in because it lets you put in your Social Security income, which in that example I think was $2,046, and your SARE pension, which in that example I think was $3,007. And then you click calculate. And then it's going to show you a graph. This side, this gray side represents what the dollar amount it thinks you're going to need to pay for your life, based on the 80% income replacement idea. This side over here shows you how much income you're actually going to have. This top box is your Sarah pension. This box here is Social Security. Currently, we have plugged in no retirement savings. And so the goal is to make these graphs even because currently there's a gap here. This is saying that your estimated monthly income is going to be less than the amount you need to achieve that 80% income replacement and maintain your standard of living. So this is telling me because there's a gap here, I do need to save additional money in this retirement scenario, or else I'm not going to achieve 80% income replacement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the results and I'm going to add some additional savings. What happens if I save $1,000 per year? And then I'm going to hit calculate. Okay, you can see there's some retirement savings in here now, but it's hasn't quite filled in the gap yet. Okay, so I'm going to edit the results. And I'm going to see what happens if I save $5,000 per year, which would be about 5.9% of my income. Okay, so it is now showing me that I'm saving a little more than I need. So I could go readjust it if I want to. If I really want to get those bars even, let's go to 4,500 and hit calculate. Okay, so now you can see they're about even. So what this is telling me is that in this scenario, where I am this old, I'm going to retire at this age. This is my current salary. This is how much I'm going to save per year. And I'm targeting 80% income replacement. I'm going to take this money and I'm going to invest it somewhere that has the potential to earn 6% over long periods of time. I will achieve the 80% income replacement target that I am targeting. So this is telling me, yes, I need to save additional and how much to save per year. Now, 4,500 might sound like a lot that you need to save per year, but I'm going to divide that over 26 pay periods and see how much it would actually be per pay period. which would be about $173. That seems a little more manageable. And but what you'll find is especially if you use the 457B account and you take it out on a tax deferred basis, if you saved $173 in this scenario, it wouldn't be a dollar for dollar decrease to your paycheck, your take home pay, because we are doing it on a pre-tax basis. So you would actually have about a maybe a 25% savings. So I'm going to multiply this by 0.75, and my take-home pay would probably only decrease about $130 if I reserved 173 for the 457B plan. Okay. So this is just one scenario. Maybe you do a scenario and it's close to this, and you see, okay, $130 less in my take-home pay. Well, that's not great because I have bills and stuff. I can really only do 20. If you can only do you can do what you can do. So maybe you start out with $20. And then once you get a feel for how that changes your life and your ability to, pay for stuff in your life, maybe you can up it over time. Maybe the next pay period up it to 40. And so my suggestion is to, as you can, keep ratcheting it up until you get to whatever the calculator is telling you to, at least whatever the calculator is telling you. And then you're pointed at 80% income replacement through your pension, Social Security, and additional savings. Now, what I recommend is don't stop there. Make sure that this is still good later in the future. 6 months from now, a year from now, go back and do the process again. Get the ACERA estimate, get the Social Security estimate, plug in all the numbers, see if it's still pointed in the trajectory. And if not, you might need to make some adjustments over time. But if you do this process and you do keep dialing in that savings to keep you pointed at your income replacement goal, whether it's 80%, 85%, 90%, I think you will find that over a long period of time, as you do this, once you get to retirement age, you will have achieved the income replacement percentage that you are targeting through the combination of the pension, Social Security, and additional savings. Okay, so there's some more slides that I'll let you go through on your own. So I really want to turn it over to the expert because this kind of comes to the limit of my financial education. So what I want to do is answer the question. Okay, so you have determined, let's say that you have determined, yes, you need to save additional money. And you have also determined using the calculator how much additional to save. The third question is, okay, where do I save it? So we offer you some different options in the slides and on that retirement planning page. So we do discuss that on the retirement planning page, determine where to save your money, and there's some different options here. I think one of the most powerful places that you can save is in a 457B account because it comes out on a pre-tax basis and it gives you an accelerated savings effect because of that. Um, and so this is a perfect segue into the 457B discussion. Let me welcome our expert on the deferred compensation program, Gene Hilliard. Are you there?
I am here. How's it going, Mike?
Going really well.
Good, good.
So Gene has been hired by the county for many years to provide this financial education on the 457B plan, also known as deferred compensation, um, to their employees. Now, if you're not a county employee, 99% of what Gene is about to tell you is still going to apply to you. So I recommend sticking around for it. So he's going to go into the nuts and bolts of how to save additional money in a 457B account, which again is like a 401k, but for government workers. Okay. Feel free to go ahead and share your slides, Gene.
You got it. Let's see. All right, how am I looking, Mike?
Looking good. Go ahead and proceed.
All right, got it, got it. Well, good after or good morning, everyone. Again, as Mike mentioned, my name is Gene Hilliard. I'm Vice President, Financial Advisor of Emerge Financial Group. We're a financial services company here in Oakland. And as Mike mentioned, we were hired at the time by Prudential now Empower, to provide retirement planning, investment guidance, and education to county employees. Okay, a little bit about my background. I've been a licensed stockbroker slash financial consultant for roughly 23 years, helping my clients create wealth, maintain that wealth throughout their lifetime, lifetime of their kids and grandkids. And I'm also proud to say that I'm a retirement counselor. And as a retirement counselor, my goal is to help each and every one of you maintain your current lifestyle in retirement. What exactly does that mean? Well, as Mike alluded to early in his presentation, is that maintaining your current lifestyle is really about trying to create 100% of income replacement. Okay. Now, it is true that you may not need 100% of your pre-retirement income, right? Because there's so many different costs that go away in retirement. But I'm big on let's shoot for 100, and if we need to settle for less, then so be it. Okay. Uh, I also want to kind of let you know that, this year I've decided to kind of switch gears a little bit when it comes to these types of presentations because I found that most people, when they think about retirement, they think about, oh, I'm 65, I'm 70 when I retire, right? And we're all kind of focused on that. But I'm here to tell you that there are quite a few participants who have decided, I want to retire at 55, right? Because retirement is not about age, it's about, are you creating enough or will you have enough income to sustain your lifestyle for the rest of your life at any age, right? So you guys are pretty much in the beginning stages of your career or mid-career. So there is time for you to come to me and say, Gene, I really would like to try to focus on retiring in my 50s. Can you help me make that happen? And it's entirely possible, right? Even if you stayed with the county 15 years, right? And you're in your mid 50s, you can probably, if you're tier two, you probably are looking at maybe 30, maybe 40% of your income from a Sarah for the rest of your life, right? So this is something I want you guys to kind of think about. This presentation is not just about 65, 66, older. You could kind of look at it, where you can retire sooner. Okay. So let's talk about deferred comp. Um, Deferred comp is a 457B plan, similar to a 401k, similar to a 403B. There's some slight differences between the two. And I'm going to kind of go through the details about how it works and what you should be thinking about in terms of retirement or retiring early. All right, here are some of the key topics. I'm going to cover your retirement income, benefits of saving through the plan, and then I'm also going to touch briefly on some updates. There's some really cool updates that are currently available to folks with the county. And then I'm going to also, for those folks who are not in the plan or for those folks who want to increase their contributions to the plan, I'm going to show you how to make that happen. Okay, so let's talk about income, pursuing the future you imagine. And the whole point of this slide is to kind of have you look into the future, right? To kind of determine exactly what you're going to be doing in retirement or early retirement. Do you plan on traveling to places you've always wanted to visit? Do you plan on spending some time with friends and family, split time between homes? What exactly do you plan on doing in retirement? Okay, so think about that and then kind of turn those thoughts into potential cost. For example, people tell me all the time, I want to travel in retirement, right? My first question is, hey, where do you want to go? Well, I want to go to South America, or I want to go to the Philippines, or I've always wanted to take this, I always wanted to go to Ghana and Africa, etc. Right? So then I'll ask, how often do you plan on going, and how much is airfare, cost, etc. Right? So we can kind of do the math to get a feel for exactly how much you're going to need in retirement. Okay. Now, that income, turning that into income replacement, you're looking at, as most financial planners will say, between 70 and 90% of your pre-retirement income is generally what you want to going to need. But as I mentioned, hey, let's shoot for 100, settle for 70 if we have to. Okay. Where do you plan? Where will your income come from? Right. So there's Social Security. I don't believe the hype. Social Security will be around when you retire. Now, if we don't make any significant changes to Social Security, yes, Social Security could go bankrupt. But there are a number of ways in which Social Security will be fixed. And in my 58 years of life, it seems like our country tends to wait to the last minute to make those tough decisions. So I'm pretty sure we're going to eventually make a right decision in terms of how to shore up Social Security. However, having said all that, log on to ssa.gov, create a user ID and password, and get a feel for roughly how much you anticipate receiving at age 62 if you plan on retiring, 66, 67, or age 70 if you want to wait. Okay. Where else will your income come from? Will come from your pension from Acera. So if you haven't already, log on to acera.org, create a user ID and password, and use the calculator. Really cool calculator. You can just plug in various ages to determine how much you should anticipate receiving from Acera. Income from assets, income from earnings. I have no issue with retirees going back to work a little bit, right? To kind of stay busy, stay sharp. But this is also another tool for those folks who want to retire early because there's nothing wrong with you saying, okay, I'm retiring at 55. I'm going to get this 30%, 25% from Acera, and then I'm going to work part time doing something I enjoy to cover the difference, right? So that's an option for you. So I strongly encourage considering that or to consider that. Okay. What are the benefits of the plan? Well, it's easy, very easy. Money comes directly out of your paycheck. You never have to worry about writing a check and depositing that money. I love the fact that the money comes directly out of your paycheck immediately. So you pay yourself first, right? That is the main way that folks create wealth. You pay yourself first, then you pay your bills with whatever is remaining. Because as I'm sure many of you are aware, if you were to pay all your bills first, and if there's money left over, oh, I'm going to invest that towards retirement, or I'm going to invest that towards a down payment on a house. 9 times out of 10, there's probably not going to be any money left over. You're going to have an accounting in your head of other costs that may pop up on you. So you end up never saving. But if I can pull that money from you immediately, you'll make do with whatever is remaining. Okay. How much should do most financial professionals tell you to invest? Um, Empower generally, for the most part, most of their accounts are 401ks or 403bs, and with nonprofits and with for-profit companies, they tend to not have a pension. So if you work for someone who does not provide a pension, then saving towards retirement, you're going to need to save a larger percent of your income in order to truly retire comfortably. But with you folks, you have a pension. So you have a backstop there. So I typically tell folks between 5 and 10% is probably a sweet spot for you. So if you're unsure about how much, just 5 to 10% of your income will suffice. But uh, this is an individual sport, individual situation. If you want to reach out to me, I can kind of give you more of an idea of truly how much you should save towards retirement. Okay, here's some plan highlights. If you're under 50, you can invest a total of $24,500 a year. If you're 50 and over, the IRS will allow a catch-up contribution of 8,000, so 24,500 plus the 8. If you're between the ages of 60 and 63, not only can you put the 24,500 in there, but you can also invest 11,250. If you're between 60 and 63, there's a new rule there. And lastly, there is something that is called the 3-year catch-up, where you can contribute $49,000 a year for 3 years prior to retirement. So you can only do that for those 3 years. Now, you don't have to retire once you've gone through this process. You can, in fact, do the 49 for 3 years, You can continue to work. You just have to go back to the 50 and over catch up deposits or any dollar amount you feel comfortable with. Okay. Some more highlights: vesting schedule. 100% of your money that you put in deferred comp is yours. Once you leave county service, there is no having to wait in order to have access to your money. No, 100% of whatever is invested in deferred comp for you is yours. The other thing I'd mention is there is no match. Many people ask me that all the time. There is no match in deferred comp, right? So every dollar you put in deferred comp is yours without the match. But don't be discouraged. Don't feel like you're getting shortchanged because you are, in fact, getting what I would call free money through Acera, right? So Acera's, you're contributing money to your Acera account, and the county is investing money on your behalf, right? So there is a pseudo max or match in your Acera plan. Okay. The other thing I'd mention is investments. There are roughly 15 core investments. So if you're big on index funds, we got something for you. If you're big on investing in socially responsible investments, there is an investment option for you. If you're unwilling to take on risk, there's the Alameda County Stable Value Fund. Pays roughly 2 to 3%. You're not going to get rich with that investment, but at least have comfort in knowing you're not going to lose any money. Okay, so there's 15 core investments. You could, so let's go back. You could create your own portfolio by choosing the investments, the percentages, etc. Or you can ask for some help, and I'll talk about the different options with respect to getting help. Okay. There are three different ways in which to invest in your account. There's a pre-tax. You can invest in the Roth version of deferred comp. It's not a Roth IRA. To be clear, it's a Roth 457, or you can roll money into the plan from a previous employer. And I'm going to go into a little bit of detail of these three options. Okay. How does the pre-tax contribution work? Well, on the plus side, growth is tax deferred. Your current taxable income may be lowered. You pay lower taxes. Makes sense. So you're investing in deferred comp. It reduces your taxable income. It grows and compounds over time. And then you pull from your account in the future and then pay taxes. This option works best if you believe you're going to be in a lower tax bracket when you retire. So you're deferring your taxes while you're working. Say you're in a 28% tax bracket. You believe you're going to be in a 15% tax bracket when you retire. So instead of paying the 28, you'll pay the 15 later. So that's the pre-tax version of deferred comp. Okay. Now there is the Roth version of deferred comp. This option works best if you believe you're going to be in a higher tax bracket when you retire. Okay. So you're investing money into this account. You're paying the taxes now. So let's say hypothetically, you're in a 25% tax bracket now. You believe you're going to be in a 35% tax bracket in the future, right? So you're investing, paying the taxes, you're avoiding that tax hike in the future. Okay. Now, I'm sure many of you on this call are probably thinking, well, Gene, you're the expert. What tax bracket should I expect myself to be in? And I have no idea. That's tax code. That's the executive branch. That's Congress. We have no idea what the tax code is going to look like in retirement. But I will say this, food for thought. It's reasonable to assume that if your income decreases in retirement, probably a good chance you're going to be in a lower tax bracket, right? Your income in retirement decreases, lower tax bracket. If you believe your income will increase in retirement, then maybe you'll be in a higher tax bracket. Okay. Now, typically, if you believe your income is going to increase over time, say hypothetically, you anticipate inheriting property assets from your parents in retirement. That's an opportunity or a possibility where your income may rise, or maybe you have a spouse, domestic partner, significant other that works at a startup technology company that may go public. So that's a possibility where your income could increase. So be thoughtful about your approach Also, keep in mind, many participants, they'll do both. I'm going to put a little bit in deferred comp pre-tax, a little bit in the Roth. I'm going to win on one of those two sides. But keep in mind, you cannot exceed the max of 24,500 between the two. Okay, hopefully that was clear. Let's see, you're in charge. You can choose a specific dollar amount that you want to contribute per paycheck, or you can choose a percent of your salary. I'm a big believer and proponent of using a percent of your salary instead of a dollar amount. Why? Because as you get raises over time, if you use a percent of your salary, it's going to automatically increase what goes into deferred comp. And if you use a dollar amount and you get a raise, you have to go back into the system to increase it. And I found that most folks, once they get used to that extra raise or that extra money, they tend to drag their feet in getting back into the system to increase your contributions into deferred comp. So I'm a big believer in using a percent of your salary. Okay. What kind of investor are you? Taking a step back, earlier I talked about there's 15 core investments. You can choose your own investments. That makes you a do-it-myself investor. But if you need some help, either a do it for me or help me do it, there's a Fisher personalized retirement managed accounts. That's to do it for me. Everything is on autopilot. You give them the go ahead to invest your money, and they're going to ask for a lot of retirement information, and then they'll create a portfolio for you for a cost. There's also Goalmaker. Goalmaker is a great tool. That's a help me do it investor. Goalmaker is a product where you tell us what your investor profile is. I'm conservative, I'm moderate, I'm an aggressive investor, and then you tell us the year you anticipate retiring. Check that box, and then you kind of keep it moving. Okay. Here's how a goal maker works. Like I said, tell us what your investor style is. Tell us the year in which you anticipate retiring. You get an automatic asset allocation, so it will create a portfolio. You also get automatic rebalancing. Exactly what is that? Let's say hypothetically, the portfolio that was created for you is say it's 80-20. 80% of your money is invested in stock funds. 20% of your money is invested in, say, bonds or cash or something like that. So it's an 80-20 mix. And let's say hypothetically the stock market is performing really, really well, right? So the following quarter, when you look at the system, looks at your account, it is now a 90-10 investment portfolio. But we initially started out at 80-20. You were willing to take on 80% risk. It is now at 90. So that's too risky. So we need to buy and sell the appropriate investments to get you back to the 80-20. And that's what automatic rebalancing is. And then lastly, you have age adjustments. So as you navigate through retirement, as you get closer and closer to retirement, the account gets more and more conservative. Makes sense, right? That's conventional wisdom because you don't have time on your side to recoup any short-term losses. So over time, we're gonna move money into safer investments. So by the time you retire, everything is pretty much in a safe bucket, and you can just start pulling from it without having to deal or worry about risk or drops in the market. I'm sure many of you have come from other institution, whether that be nonprofit, for-profit companies. Maybe you have a 403b, 401k, an IRA that can be moved over. But you have accounts on the outside. Maybe they're idle. Maybe they're not earning a whole heck of a lot. You might want to consider consolidating and transferring that money into deferred comp. And I can walk you through how to do that without tax consequences. Deferred comp has flexible distribution options. This is not a 401k. This is not a 403b where if you withdraw money before you're 59 and a half, you're hit with a penalty. That does not apply to 457b plans. So if you leave county service and you're mid 50s, you have access to your money penalty free. Now, you may be on the hook for taxes, but there's never any penalties. Okay. Let's dive into the updates. A few updates in the plan, some new features. There's an in-plan Roth conversion, super catch-up contributions, new Roth rules for certain high-income earners, loans for separated employees, and rollovers into the plan for separated employees. So let's dive into in-plan conversions. What is an in-plan conversion? That's where uh, you're converting some of your pre-tax money into the Roth within the plan. As many of you are aware, this plan probably was been running for 30, 40 years. You were only able to invest pre-tax, not Roth. Roth is probably about 10 years old. And maybe the bulk of the money that's in your account is all pre-tax. And you'd like to convert some of that into the Roth because you've heard you can access that money without having to pay taxes. Well, there's a new feature here where you can do exactly that. You can convert your pre-tax money into Roth. Okay. But just keep in mind, here's the considerations here and benefits. It's a taxable event. It's irreversible. You can't make any changes to it. Okay. You can only pay the taxes because remember the pre-tax bucket of money, there hasn't been any taxes being paid on it. So when you convert it, you got to write a check to pay the taxes. And that must come from an outside account. You cannot use the money in deferred comp to pay the taxes. So if you want to convert, you're going to need to write a check from the outside to pay the taxes. The other thing you want to be careful of is that's considered income for the year. So I would advise not converting too much, right? So if you're converting so much where that increases your tax bracket, I don't know if that's a good idea, right? Also, keep in mind, you can do this over multiple years. So you don't have to convert everything all at one time. You can convert a little over the next 5 years or 10 years. It's completely up to you, assuming you have the money on the outside to pay the taxes. New Roth rules. In the past, when you were, if you were 50 and over, you can invest 24,500 in the pre-tax bucket, and you can invest the $8,000 into the pre-tax bucket, right? That's the way it used to work. Now there's a new rule with respect to the Secure Act 2.0 that states that if your income from the previous year exceeds $150,000, right, you no longer can invest that catch up $8,000 into the pre-tax bucket. It has to go into the Roth. So just keep that in mind. If your income from the previous year exceeds 150, that $8,000 catch-up contribution must go into the Roth. Okay. The good news here is for the folks who want to take advantage of the 3-year catch-up, that's that $49,000 a year for 3 years. That can go 100% into the pre-tax bucket. So this Roth FICA wages deal from the previous year does not apply. Okay. Loans. In the past, only current employees could borrow from their deferred comp. But now, if you're separated from the county, retire from the county, you can borrow from your deferred comp. So you can borrow 50% or $50,000, whichever is less. You can pay this back through a general purpose loan. So that's the maximum of 5 years to pay it back. Or if you're interested in purchasing a primary resident, you have a maximum of 15 years to pay that loan back. Rollovers. Rollovers into the plan from previous employees in the past was only available for those folks who were current employees. But now they changed the rules. Once you retire from the county or you leave county service, you can roll money into deferred comp. So that's a pretty good deal. You may want to consolidate. Maybe it's convenient. Maybe you can have 3 or 4 or 5 different accounts all over the place and you want to put it in one pot. If you're separated employee, you can roll it into the plan and have just one retirement account. Okay. How to enroll and make changes. If you're a general member with the county and you want to sign up for deferred comp, just go to treasurer.acgov.org and then click on the tab to download a copy of the application. If you would like to make changes to your account, such as contribution changes, you want to increase it, go to the same website and then just go to payroll modification. Okay. Have any questions there? Please don't hesitate. Reach out to me. For those folks who currently have money in deferred comp and have yet to create a user ID and password for the Empower site, I encourage you to do so. Go to this website, AlamedaCountyDCP.com. Follow the prompts to register. So you need your social, zip code, last name, birth date, and then you may or may not need a PIN. Create a user ID and password. You can make changes to your account, move money around. You can view your statements. You can add beneficiaries to your account. So it's a great website to access. And then there's also a retirement income calculator on the website that you can utilize. Now, I'll be totally honest with you. The Empower retirement income calculator, they've made some changes to it. And for whatever reason, you're no longer allowed to put in your pension amount, which doesn't make any sense, right? Because when you're thinking about retirement, you want to put in how much you're going to get from your pension, how much you're going to get from Social Security to kind of see if you're on track. But now all of a sudden that pension option is not available. I have to trick the system. I can help you with that. But that tool that Mike used earlier with Vanguard, that's a great tool. I say go ahead and utilize that at your leisure. Great app. I know everyone's big on having an app on their phone, so just Google or just download the app from the App Store with Empower. You can use their financial planning calculators. There's articles, there's courses you can access. So great tool, great app that you can utilize. Okay. We're here to help. Reach out to us, 855-969-4572. Hit option, I believe it's 1 if you want to speak with someone at Empower. Hit option 2 if you'd like to speak with someone at the treasurer's office, so in the deferred comp unit. And then you'll hit option 3 if you're interested in speaking with a variety of advisors. There's Mark and Daryl from Wells Fargo. There's me from Emerge, and then there's Dan and Jose from Empower. So we're here to kind of help you, guide you through the retirement planning process. So please don't hesitate, reach out. If you're looking to schedule an appointment, you can call, as I mentioned, or you can log on this website. And then I believe you'll click on Meet Your Plan Representatives. Click that, and then you'll have the option of scheduling a virtual appointment or a phone appointment. Okay. So with that, I'd love to entertain questions. What is on your mind?
Amazing. Thanks, Gene.
Oh, it's my pleasure. My pleasure.